Hello everyone, welcome to Rubber Industry News Hour. As you know, this is a weekly news program for rubber industry. We are here for the episode number 8. Today is 7th March 2022. As you know, this is a program happens every Monday, starts at same time, like 9:30 p.m. Singapore, 7 p.m. India, and USA 8:30 a.m. EST, and Europe 2:30 p.m. Central European time. I welcome you all to this Rubber Industry News Hour episode number 8. Give you some understanding about this program, what kind of content is there in this program. I think some of you are new to this program today. We have news headlines, research, we have tips and tricks, regulations, market review, panel discussion, business talk, and tech talk, other talk, opportunities, business profiles, buyer guide. So we have a broad range of subjects covering this news hour, but we don't cover everything in one program. It will be scattered in different episodes, different focus. So this is the main content of the rubber industry news hour, which happens on every Monday. I welcome you all again. I'd like to thank our partners supporting this program, Rubber World. Probably all of you know about this Rubber World magazine, 130 plus years in publishing business, well-known Rubber World, well-known magazine for the rubber industry. I do suggest all of you to subscribe to it if you are not subscriber yet, rubberworld.com. And we also have a Rubber and Tire Digest, which is a bi-monthly magazine, which is jointly published by Technobase and Rubber World. So it's also available to subscribe for free in a digital format. Go to the website rubbertiredigest.com. As you know, we have this video platform, Technobase channel. A lot of information is available on Technobase channel. Please do visit. And we have a rubber industry network, which is basically on the LinkedIn group page, as well as the WhatsApp groups also there. And we have Facebook group that is focused on the rubber technology. So these are the partners involved in promoting this rubber industry news hour. As you know, the rubber industry news hour is owned and managed by Technobase. I'd like to give you some intro to the what is Technobase and what kind of services we offer for the rubber industry. Let's have a look at the short video clip on the Technobase. Okay, that's about the Technobase. I'm hoping that you have some idea now what kind of services we offer for the rubber industry. For the all the participants, I'd like to invite all of you participants. If you find this event, Rubber Industry NewsHour, useful to you, I do encourage all of you to share this information to your colleagues, team members, industry friends to join on every Monday so that they benefit. We are trying to bring a useful information on every Monday. So I'd like to make sure that every person in the rubber industry aware of this one. So please join me to invite all the relevant people to this news hour on every Monday. This news hour is available on YouTube at our Technobase channel. If somebody misses it, somebody want to view it again, you can always view at our Technobase channel. Please follow this on our YouTube. Okay, let's into today's session, episode number 8, Rubber Industry News Hour. Let me give you what are the main highlights. I think most of you know already what are the main highlights of today's session. We have first rubber industry market review. Under this natural rubber market review, Mr. Jom Jacob, rubber industry analyst, will be giving updates on the NR market review. After that, quick commercial information on the rubber business profile, rubber industry business profile, and also rubber industry buyer guide. And we have a rubber industry business talk. Under this session, we're going to explore the journey of the Saga elastomers as a quality manufacturer of extruded rubber products. We have Mr. Milind Ladda, Managing Director of the Saga elastomers. And so we discuss about his journey making the company progress and Saga elastomers. Then we have a rubber industry panel discussion. In this discussion, we are covering on impurities in rubber compounds, how to handle. We have 3 experienced rubber technologists, as more than, if I combine together, probably 120 years experience in the rubber processing, compounding. They will be sharing their experience on impurities aspects. Then we have other session on the rubber industry business talk. In here, we are focused on the quality assurance, role of quality assurance in rubber industry for business excellence. This will be by Mr. R.S. Kannan, as a director of the JK Associates, is a consulting and training on quality. Today, the program will be much longer than before, as we have addressing very important issues and which require more time. So please stay tuned until to the end. Every topic, is relevant to the industry. I do encourage all of you to stay on to the end. But it will be long. Today will be the longer program than before. So let's get into the first session in the rubber industry market review. In this session, Mr. Jom Jacob will be giving an updated report on the natural rubber market review. And let me brief about Mr. Jom Jacob. He is an independent analyst in the global rubber industry. It's more than 3 decades as analyst, resource expert, with experience in analyzing rubber market, forecasting the industry trends, formulating long-term policies, and development plans for natural rubber sector. He got a global network with all the industry players and stakeholders. He also served as a senior economist for 11 years for the Association of Natural Rubber Producing Countries. Before that, he was with the Rubber Board of India as well for the 23 years. So let's welcome Mr. Jom Jacob to give an updated report from the natural rubber market review. Mr. Jom.
Hi all, welcome to natural rubber market review. Last week, the sentiment in market, not only natural rubber markets, it could be equities, it could be various equity futures. Sentiment have been overshadowed by Ukraine war. So in fact, the war, we have seen war getting intensified and markets collapsing, not only in for natural rubber market, equities and various other sectors, prices came down because speculative investors kept away from risky asset classes. We have seen prices of risky asset classes coming down, falling down. At the same time, safe haven assets, for example, currencies like Swiss franc, Australian dollar, US dollar, Japanese yen, and also gold going up, because in a period of uncertainty, investors normally go for a safe haven asset classes. So this was the economic and geopolitical background of the week before. In fact, we had a number of positive news which could have given positive sentiment to the markets. We had a number of news, but the overshadowing of the market sentiments by Ukraine war, because of that, the positive sentiment could not be reflected in the markets. So when I say we had a number of positive news, we have a few numbers. For example, US jobs data during February. In February, US non-farm sector added nearly 0.7 million new jobs, which was far exceeding the expectation of the economists. Also, we have seen China PMI, China's Manufacturing Purchase Managers Index, performing better than the previous months or better than what was expected. We have also seen China's export performance, means the total exports during January and February, posting nearly 20% growth compared to January, February last year. And also we have seen the commercial vehicle sales in India posting nearly 20% growth during February. Means a commercial vehicle sale is important for natural rubber, because it is in commercial vehicle tires that natural rubber is largely consumed. So although the passenger car and the two-wheeler segment was falling down, the commercial vehicle sector was performing better, nearly 20% growth in February compared to the previous February. So all these, also we have seen China coming out with the new targets, economic target, GDP target for 2022, and also a number of policy stimulus to stimulate the recovery momentum. But these could not evoke any positive sentiments world over. In fact, for rubber, now it is off season because of the seasonal wintering of or leaf shedding of trees or refoliation of trees, rubber trees, off season world over. So supply was low, but still sentiment have been taken down due to the dominant influence of the Ukraine war. So let us see how the prices perform. We have 6 charts to be shown here. We will see the 6 charts, how the prices performed during last week. We can see right now. We have chart number 1, which is showing the Shanghai rubber futures during last week, daily settlement price of Shanghai rubber futures. In fact, last week, Shanghai rubber futures averaged 1.8% lower compared to the week before. 1.8% lower. When we go into Psycho market, chart number 2, Psycho TS benchmark grade is Psycho TSR20. Psycho TSR20 also averaged 1.3% lower. When we go to another chart, RSS3, Osaka RSS3 futures or RSS3 futures traded on the Osaka exchange, the prices average 0.8% lower. So in all the three futures market, prices have averaged lower compared to a week before, in spite of the favorable or positive news, because all the positive factors have been overshadowed by the Ukraine war. Then let us go into physical markets. Chart number 4. Chart number 4 is actually we are seeing STR20 price at FOB Bangkok and SMR20 price at FOB Kuala Lumpur. STR20 Bangkok averaged 0.7% lower, means the physical price also came down. This was one point which we have expected when we presented the NR market view 1 week ago. We have pointed out that the Ukraine war and the sanctions announced by the West allies on Russia will have major negative impact on the global economic recovery. Global economic recovery impact will be impacted means the prospects of global demand for rubber would be impacted. So in fact, that has been reflected in the physical market. STR20 Bangkok price average 0.7% lower. SMR20 Kuala Lumpur average 2.5% lower. Then we'll go to another chart, chart number 5, which is showing the prices of RSS, ribbed swapped sheet or sheet rubber. RSS3 at FOB Bangkok and RSS4 price, local price at Kottayam market in India. RSS3 Bangkok averaged 1.3% higher. RSS3 Bangkok averaged 1.3% higher, and RSS4 Kottayam averaged 1.1% higher. So means in the case of RSS there was a positive, but only 1.3% higher in the case of Bangkok and 1.1% in the case of Kottayam RSS4. Kottayam market referred to the local market, it is not FOB price. Then we have one more chart, chart number 6, which is showing the latex price at two markets. One is Bangkok and the other is Kuala Lumpur. Bangkok and latex latex price at Kuala Lumpur market averaged 0.2% lower compared to a week before. But latex market at Bangkok averaged 1.9% higher compared to a week before. So this was the overall market performance during last week. So in fact, actually, as we mentioned earlier, nearly 70% of the global trade in natural rubber is in the form of TSR, technically specified rubber. So that means when we say rubber markets, we are referring to TSR price because that is representing 70% of the global trade. So roughly we can say that rubber market last week came down nearly 1% with reference to TSR20, which is a dominant grade. One point I missed when I listed the various favorable factors. Another point was there. In fact, actually, Thailand is the largest NR producing countries, accounting nearly 35% of the global supply. In Thailand, the major rubber growing region is the south of Thailand. In fact, there was severe flood in South Thailand that might have disrupted the supply chain in the southern part. So that was another positive factor. Also in Malaysia, east coast of Malaysia was also flooded. So that means that there was some supply chain disruption in the case of natural rubber physical market supply that also could not evoke any positive sentiment. So this was one point I missed earlier. Now, coming to what can happen in the near term, or maybe this week, IMF has already stated that the Ukraine war and the economic sanctions announced by the Europe and US will have major negative influence on the, means they use the word shock, significant shock on the global economy. That means we are anticipating a downward revision in the global economic growth. In fact, natural rubber demand is directly linked to economic growth. If economic growth is going to revise down, or economic growth is going to slow down, that means we are expecting a slowdown in the demand growth for natural rubber. That means demand for natural rubber will be lower than what we had expected earlier. I refer to demand in 2022 would be lower than what we expected lower. So that means the physical market sentiment could be affected. Means this is something very something having negative influence on the physical market sentiment. Not only in the physical market, it will be having negative influence in the futures market as well. Then another important factor. Last week we have seen crude oil prices soaring. So in fact, today morning we have seen crude oil taking a wild jump of nearly 10 to 11%. And in the early morning, it was traded at about $133 per barrel. I refer to Brent crude oil. Brent crude oil was traded at around $133 per barrel, which is close to the historical high in 2008. In 2008, price had reached around $140. And according to analysts, oil industry analysts, if US and Europe are going to have 100% ban on oil coming from Russia, if that is implemented with 100%, oil price can go further up. It is unbelievable, but according to oil industry analysts, it can reach, global oil price can reach up to even $200 per barrel. So in fact, we have to consider that maybe 2 or 3 weeks before, oil was rolling below $90 per barrel. So oil price is, crude oil is actually is a lifeblood of the global economy. Oil price goes up means entire economic activities world over would be impacted. Life will be more expensive, and inflation, already world is actually reeling under high inflation, heated inflation. Inflation pressure will aggravate further. So people will have to postpone purchases, or they have to keep off from buying things, or the purchasing power will come down. So this is something going to happen immediately in the immediate future. So soaring oil prices will have tremendous impact on the global inflation, tremendous impact on the recovery momentum. So this is going to have going to dominate the market sentiment in the next few weeks. And then we have to, and then today I received so many queries from people in the industry, rubber industry. Normally, when oil price goes up, rubber price should go up, because when oil price goes up, synthetic rubber is going to be more expensive. So people using synthetic rubber will substitute and switch over to natural rubber. So this is something needs more explanation. In fact, I am coming out with a more detailed explanation on that. In fact, when oil price goes up due to several reasons. One important, when oil price is going up due to economic growth, or means because of the higher demand, that will be reflected in higher demand for natural rubber. In fact, substitution from synthetic rubber to natural rubber is not, is actually, people in the speculative market speculate based on that, but in reality, substitution from natural rubber to synthetic rubber, or SR to NR, is very much limited because of the technical consideration. Actually, there are several points to be discussed here. Due to the limited availability, I am postponing that discussion to another occasion. Another important thing we have to consider is the global shipping cost. Already it is very high. Global shipping cost is already very high. The war and the Ukraine war and the additional and the further logistic disruptions, especially in the context of the economic sanctions announced on Russia, and also the abnormal increase in crude oil price will further lead to higher shipping costs. So shipping cost is going to be higher. That means that will be another factor impacting on the global inflation. So inflation will go up, one due to fuel price and another factor due to the higher shipping costs. So thus that also will be impacting on the competitiveness of several industries and several economic activities. And we have to consider that all these will be getting reflected on the demand outlook for natural rubber. So that means the prevailing conditions are not favorable for natural rubber to make an upward trend. But at the same time, we have to consider that supply is low, so prices may not go down further. But I would like to say that price lacks favorable condition to go up from the prevailing low condition. And we have to consider that when we go into different market situations may be different. For example, in the Indian market, situation is slightly different from the global market, because in India, as in other major producing countries, it is an off-season of supply. And India is a net importer. Nearly 40% or 45% of the demand is met by import. At the moment, import is more expensive in India. One reason is a higher shipping cost and the shipping delay. Another reason is Indian rupee has weakened. Today, $1 is nearly 77 Indian rupee. So rupee weaker means imported items are more expensive, or imported have to spend more rupee to import things. So that means imported natural rubber will be more expensive, or manufacturing companies within India will prefer to source natural rubber from domestic market. So the prevailing situation of higher shipping costs and the weak Indian rupee is favorable for the Indian markets to gain strength in the coming days. But there are certain issues, certain constraining factor at the same time, because manufacturing auto tire companies in India are reeling under higher cost of manufacturing, because most of the inputs used in tire manufacturing are oil based, not only SR. Several their raw materials used in tire industries are oil based, and oil is more expensive. That means the companies are right now focusing more on the financial performance of the companies and the equity prices. So the companies may be keeping the inventory low, so we can't expect aggressive buying by auto tire companies until the end of March. That means until the last quarter of the fiscal year is finished. We can't expect, but factors are favorable for the Indian market to improve in the short time. So that's all about the NR market review. We will see again next Monday at the same time. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's the natural rubber market review by Mr. Jom Jacob. I'd like to introduce about one of his activities is the Endnote Dialogue. We are doing a program called Endnote Dialogue, which is basically focusing on the regional natural rubber markets, what's happening. So we are having an Endnote Dialogue on the 24th March 2022 at 9:30 p.m. Singapore time, on focusing on the Latin America natural rubber industry. This program is hosted by Mr. Jom Jacob. He is invited. He's invited 3 specialists from the Latin America to talk about the situation in the Latin American natural rubber industry. So I request you and suggest to all of you, if you're interested in the Latin American natural rubber market, please do register for this program on the 24th March. Okay, let me show you the commercial part, a little commercial about rubber industry business profile. As you know, in this program, we introduce the companies, their products and services. Today we have a company called Wholewell Components. This is basically a one-stop solution for all elastomeric needs. Let me show you their company presentation in a minute. Okay, that's about the Wholewell Components business profile. If you're interested in their services and products, I would like to collaborate with them. Please reach out to the Wholewell Components, a one-stop solution for all elastomeric needs. Okay, let's move on to the next part of the program today is on the rubber industry business talk. In this session, we have focused on the journey of Saga elastomers as a quality manufacturer of extruded rubber products. We have Mr. Milind Ladda, Managing Director of the Saga elastomers. We'll be sharing his experiences, how he managed his business, running the business for many years. Before we invite Mr. Milind, let's have a look at the presentation on the Saga elastomers, so that all of you have an understanding what is Saga elastomer is all about. Okay, that's a short presentation on the Saga elastomers. Now let me invite Mr. Milind Ladda, the Managing Director of the Saga elastomers, to come forward. Let's learn about his journey in managing the Saga elastomers. Mr. Milind, welcome to the Rubber Industry Business Talk. How are you?
Thank you for inviting me to this show, and I would like to express my gratitude to all my team members, to my customers, and to my associates. Here I am basically as a representative of all of these people. So whatever Saga is today is because of the joint efforts of everyone.
Super. Thank you. Welcome again for this program today. Before get into more details about how is your experience, I want to just dive into the name. What is a Saga means?
Yeah, basically Saga, the name is derived from the English word itself, a Herculean effort which is going on for a long time. So we have done this for our company. We have started from zero, and we are at some bit of a good size today. A long way to go ahead, but it has been a continuous struggle, and that is what we mean by Saga.
Okay, super. I really like the word Saga. It's a very nice name. Yeah, let's keep it going, the journey.
Yeah, we'll try to do that.
Yeah. And I know I was checking on your background. You are actually graduate in textile background. And
Yeah.
what's the story? How did you get into the rubber, man? Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I am a textile engineer, and we started with flocking on textiles. Mr. Dinesh Gandhi then at that point of time introduced me to flocking on rubber. And it was a new industry at that point of time in India, and we could get good results in the initial stages itself. So we started procuring a lot of rubber goods. So we shifted on to manufacturing of rubber profiles for ourselves. So that is how I got into rubber, and I would thank Mr. Dinesh Gandhi to get me into this field.
And you're enjoying it now, being a rubber industrialist?
Yes. Now I am enjoying it. Seen a lot of ups and downs. So
Yes.
now I'm enjoying
it. Before we go into more details about about the business aspects of it, I'd like to understand. You mentioned that your father is a role model for you. Can you talk about your father, his influence on you, and he's still active in your business? How is it?
Yes. He is very much active. In fact, I feel a lot of pressure from him even today. He's at the age of 78, and my factory is about 100 kilometers from my home. So he is always ready even before me in the morning to get up and catch the train to go to the factory. And over the years also, he has been a very inspiring figure for me. So we have faced as a family a lot of ups and downs, and he was taking all the heat, and we as a family never felt all that. So he shielded us from all those things. And going ahead, when he joined us in our factory, when actually I could afford his services, kind of. So I could learn a lot from him. Though he's an engineer, his managerial skills are extremely good, and the learning process for me is still going on. And even today, a lot of day-to-day production activities are still handled by him. So yes, a lot of learning from. Though I would say I have not yet imbibed the quality of shielding my family from my whatever day-to-day activities in the factory. A lot of learning yet to come from him.
Super. So glad to know is 78 still he's behind you. Yeah, behind you in the sense to push you forward. Yeah?
Yes. In fact, I had to tell him, why don't you take some holidays so that even I can take holidays.
Yeah, that's nice, and nice to have a father like him, and give you the right push and positive pressure to take the Saga elastomers to more milestones in the near future. Yeah. You say, I understand that you you started a company in 2009, but before that you already experienced the rubber industry. And I want to know, when you established a company in 2009, I want first few years how your journey looks like. Is it a cakewalk, or is it a rough walk? What kind of journey was the first?
It was a very shoddy and rough walk. And even before 2009, we constituted this company, Saga Elastomer Private Limited in Palghar. My career in rubber actually started in 1996, wherein we did this backward integration, which I just told you. We started the production of rubber profiles. So when we did start that, I did not have any background of rubber technology, nothing at all. Just started it because we had to get into it. And within 2 to 3 months, we were in this industry of flocking for about 4 to 5 years. So we had earned good. In the first 4 to 5 months itself, whatever we had earned in the 3 to 4 years of our business, we had brought that everything to zero. And at that point of time, somebody came and told me that this is this tagline which he said, which I always remember, कि किसी से दुश्मनी निकालनी हो तो उसकी रबर की फैक्ट्री चालू करवा दो. So it was like always a thought which was there in my mind. But of course, over the years we have overcome it. And I would say one particular incident over here, Mr. Bhatia of Rohit Rubber. He knew my background as an engineer, so he suggested that I should do a course in rubber technology as a part-time course, which at that point of time IRI was conducting in UD Once I did that course, I got a hang of the rubber industry, so I have to say, and then things started moving in the positive direction. From 96 to 2009, we did had a steady path, and then I had the confidence and the feeling that yes, this has a good potential further. Then we moved on to Palghar, where I bought a big place, about 20,000 square feet, and there it is where we are running this Saga Elastomer Private Limited. So yes, I had seen a lot of not the cakewalk.
So that's nice. So, but you can keep on moving. That's important, right? So yeah.
So that point of time, there were a lot of questions, self-doubts, and everything that happens eventually, because I'm an engineer. I did not do management, though got a seat in NMIMS at that point of time. Someone was convinced that I can't do a job, so just pushed myself and went through those years. That was a learning process.
And also you have inspirational father behind you, so I don't think he let you go. Right? That's nice. You are specialized in extruded rubber products. Why extruded rubber products? There are lots of various types of products, but you are specialized in the extruded rubber. Why did you choose those segments?
Yeah, here again, it is basically the products chose me rather than me choosing the products. Like I said, it was basically a backward integration for us. We were doing flocking on channels. So all the channels are extruded profiles. So we started production of profiles, and over the years, we developed our expertise in profile itself. And I could see a lot of potential in the profiles business. And today, what has happened is basically flocking has come down to only about 1 to 1.5% of our total business. So eventually, we just expanded our capacities in extrusion itself. We do have a little bit of moldings, but it was basically that it was a backward integration. So it was not like I just want to get to the rubber industry. So now what industry should I get into? Should it be pharma products? Should it be conveyor belts or something of that sort? It was something that I just moved on gradually.
And I understand you also always look at challenges in terms of product development. Is it right?
Oh, yes. So from the initial phase itself, we had this bent of mind of taking up complicated products and working as a team onto it. And that gave you a sense of achievement, and the entire team would feel enthused with it. And that culture still remains in Saga. So we are continuously on the lookout for new products, and we don't see development of new products as something which is hampering our production. Like we always have the production pressure, but the entire team looks up to, okay, what new trial is being done today. So that is the entire attitude in Saga. And the team also, they keep on making detailed notes of what we've done today, what was the thing that could have been improved, and the second trial, third trial, we keep on improving on that. And that is how we have developed a variety of products for a number of industries. In fact, we are catering to at least about 10 to 12 different industries today, and developed quite good niche products for those industries. So that has been also our marketing forte as such.
So I mean, in the company presentation, I observed that you have a wide range of products for the different market requirements. Which products, which markets are giving a good kind of a significant contribution to your business? You have a wide variety of products. So in particularly extruder profile,
a big trend for us. It has happened over the time, and specifically pointing out any one particular product is quite difficult. But what we have done is developed an expertise on a lot of polymers and a lot of hardness range as well. So we are into nitrile, EPDM, silicone, hardness range from 40 to 85. We cater to segments like wiper tip for oil and gas industry, then pipe seals for the infrastructure industry, pads, EPDM profiles, EPDM expansion joints. These are all things which are not so easy to produce, and we have a well-documented process for it. And in fact, now if we get anything on this, it is simply that, okay, this is what we have done, just stick to that routine and produce it. So though a difficult product, but since we have done it repeatedly, now it is kind of a routine for us.
And your export is more. Yeah. Export is more for you.
Yeah.
Export.
So we are actually in the last 3 to 4 years we have gone more into exports, and about 60% of our turnover is now into exports, and we are catering to UK, France, Germany, Australia, Spain, a diverse lot of countries. And again, in that countries also we are catering to various industries. Like our France client is more into the mining sector, the Australian client is more into the pipe seal sector. So it is spread out across customer segments, countries like that. And that is how we are seeking further growth as well.
You know, when I discussed with you before this program, you talked about quality. And I just wanted to understand, how do you manage or assure, because your export 60% is export. So can you give some highlights about or insights about how do you manage your quality control and quality assurance for your clients?
Yeah, here our basic thought process for the entire team again is that we do not consider quality as only the quality supervisor's job or the quality department's job. It is taken to be a part and parcel of each and every member of the team. And from experience, we have learned that the last person on the machine, if we train him on the quality aspects, for example, on the extrusion itself, we have given our operators a vernier caliper and they check the dimensions immediately on the extrusion stage itself. So that is how we are implementing it. It is not that only the quality person will check it, and then of course the quality person is there, but it is basically on everyone's shoulders that the quality is ensured. And of course we do have day-to-day discussions, like every 7 to 10 days we have discussions on what went right for this product, what are the areas where we can improve. And it is an open culture where everybody is allowed to, in fact we support people to come and comment on whatever processes can be improved further to ensure quality. So that has been the way. And of course we had some failures also, and in exports failures are very expensive. So that is what has also pushed us to bringing in more quality, bringing more quality consciousness into our entire team.
Yeah, it's always learning, continuous learning is there, managing the quality.
Our industry is a big learner. Every day something new comes up. Even if you are doing the same thing repeatedly, it is just not that you can just sit back and relax. Okay, ये तो बार-बार किया है, so it has to happen like that. It is, some people say rubber is an art and skill joined together. So the shop floor people have to be on the toes. Anything new can crop up any day, and that day's tweak will be different from whatever we had done yesterday.
Your company is located in Maharashtra in India. I think one of the core places in the COVID got a lot of impact also, right? And how did you manage this? Of course, now we are talking about post-COVID. I don't know. Still, we are in the post-COVID, or maybe some new name for it sooner or later. But how did you manage your business during the COVID times, and how you're picking up now? Yeah.
So the biggest challenge with COVID was the unpredictability that it brought along, and nobody has seen it before, so everybody was totally confused about it. So yes, the initial 2 to 3 months were very difficult for everyone, but since we have been as a team for the last 10 to 12 years, and we had some internal dialogue, a WhatsApp group, and we had this talk, though the factory was shut, so everybody was taken care of, and they knew that as a team we would be taken care of. So that did help in the initial part, but of course, because of the unpredictability of the disease itself and no one knowing much about it, some people did leave our team. Eventually, at their own comfort level, they did join us also back. And the entire COVID period, in fact, it has been a lot of learning for me and for our team during the COVID period, because earlier to COVID, pre-COVID, as you say, I would be going daily to my factory, and because of COVID, it was a challenge because trains were not running, and daily traveling 100 kilometers up and down is not feasible at all. So I had to compulsorily move on to a situation where I used to now go only twice a week. So the team became more independent. They could take decisions on themselves, and I would say kudos to my team. They have really taken it up in a very positive way. This has been one major learning for me as well, that it was not that I was actually an impediment for them to grow further. So that has been a very big learning, and we had very good support from our clients as well, since we were into exports, already into it. So we got, in fact, bigger orders in the COVID times. Logistics was sometimes an issue, but the client supported us in giving us faster payments. So that has helped us. Sometimes we did face some raw material issues, but not to such a big extent. But overall, for us, COVID was actually positive for the team as well, for learning for me personally, and of course, I got to attend a lot of technical webinars, which because I was in Palghar, I could not attend. And then everything moved on to the web, like we are attending today's webinar as well. So I learned a lot from these webinars. One of the webinars I did recently was on overseas polymer, where though being in the industry for 20 years, I really learned that day how to calculate the needle batch size. And we actually implemented it and found very good improvement in our mixing cycle. Other webinar, these are just some incidents which come to my mind immediately. I had on Vistanema, it was conducted by BP Chemicals. They are the distributor for this particular product. This is a wonderful product, and for very difficult products, it works wonderfully well. So a lot of things happened to us, and I would say for Team Saga, COVID has been only positive.
That's good. That's good. Yes. So I think the company performed better because you had to be lean and using the resources efficiently. I think the efficiency must have been improved a lot because you're forced to. Yeah.
Team strength had gone down, and at the same time we were getting more orders. So we had to learn to use our resources more efficiently. So we did all of that with a lot of juggling. Some of the offline products we moved on to online. Never had thought about it. But since online gives you much faster production on the microwave line I'm talking about, so we moved a lot of products from offline to online, which we had never earlier thought of. So they say necessity is the mother of invention. So it applied to us like anything.
Absolutely, absolutely. Other than this COVID situation, of course, you're forced to improve yourself, and the opportunities there. Any other challenges in 13 years of running your business? Major issues that it's so much heavy, it's like a big mountain on the head. Okay, it's like,
yeah. So individually, as an individual, when I think about it, there are always challenges of there is a self-doubt though now I am a bit comfortable, but over the years, you always have this lingering feeling. Have I done it correctly? Was the correct path taken by me? Could have done better somewhere else. This does happen. Then there's this financial crisis which you have to face. Though fortunately, I did not face it too much. Time management is one big thing for me, where again, COVID has taught me a lot. And also, like Saga as such, if we take Saga as a team, if we talk about the challenges of Saga, we were more like reactive. So if we got the order, we used to work backwards and then try to finish off that order within the time schedule and all that. Recently, again, thanks to this phase where I am at home, I could join Quantum Leap, and they have it's something coaching, like business coaching by Rajiv Talreja, and they have taught us a lot. Where now I'm learning time management, and we are now doing more of a proactive marketing. So from reactive to proactive, now we are pushing up our products. Like a lot of clients don't know, okay, we have this as well as this. Even our existing clients don't know the range. So that is what we have now started doing. So this has been some of the challenges how we have overcome also.
Let's look into the your infrastructure. I think you mentioned about you're expanding, you're growing in terms of the business export market. So what kind of facilities and resources in the capabilities for Saga has?
Yeah, so here also again, of course, we have a micro line, the autoclave line offline for some products which we have to do offline. The usual lab setup and all of that is there. But more than this, what I always believe the core infrastructure that Saga has is that it has created a wonderful team. So we have a team which is adept to take up challenges, and that is what is driving me forward. And the team is now growing. As Saga is growing, we are not finding it too difficult to acquire more people. So I think it is some goodwill that we have created, which is helping us to grow. And I think that this is what will help us beyond as well. And of course, with this experience now, with the global clients that we have, what we have now also learned is we are ready with the packing list invoices, the volume of the cargo that we'll be making, the expected date that we will be shipping out, so that the client can book his containers and his shipping schedule according to that. And infrastructure, of course, as I said, we have a micro line, we are going up for one more line, we have offlines and the usual lab setup. Of course, since we are in Maharashtra and close by to Bombay, we have very good backup support from IRM array as well as Attune polymers. So if we want some testing analysis done, we get it done from these people. And I have a very good consultant also who does not have to come to my factory. Is very happy with that. I am also happy with that because from the data that we give it to him, he can advise us on that. So that is a good part. Of course, WhatsApp also is helping. Zoom is helping in all of this. So technology has evolved. We have also evolved with COVID. Things which you never thought earlier could be possible are now being done. So,
there is one issue that's always rubber industries kind of facing is supply chain, the prices, shortage. You have similar problems in there?
this is one thing which is going to remain, I suppose, till the oil problem is going to be there. The rubber industry is cursed with this problem. So what we have done for this is try to stock up, try to be in touch with the pricing, and we are here also. Again, we have very good vendors, a good bank to support us. One particular issue, since you just discussed this, for in the COVID times, we had moved on from buying small quantities to bulk quantities. And I had ordered for a container. I did not inform my factory that I have ordered for a container. One fine day, my factory manager called me, saying, "Sab, container aa gaya, isko utaru kahan pe?" So this is all that we did face. And here we had very good support from Elastochemy Impex. So that they have been good support. We did not face too much of an issue in raw materials over here. Of course, pricing is always a matter of concern.
Sure.
Clients have been supportive because a lot of our clients are also into rubber manufacturing. So they also are in sync with what is happening in the commodities. They are also aware, and we did get a good price, some amount of price increase as well. So yes, but yes, this is a big challenge, and I don't think any easy solutions available for it.
I think that it's good to know that you have a support from your clients as well as your suppliers. I think this is a key also to grow, and
Yeah.
getting
This is a very good
the
point.
middle in time, and also they give you some technical support, and so it's nice. Yeah. As you've been you started in 1996 something, and still in the rubber industry. How do you see the future of rubber industry?
The future of rubber industry, I am very optimistic about it. If you just go by the numbers, the per capita consumption in developing countries is still much low. So there is a lot of scope for the industry itself to grow. So it's a multi-billion market over there. It's just about how you put yourself over there and how you can grab some part of this business. And some things which could be disruptive, positively, negatively, both the ways, is that thermoplastic is coming up in a big way. So that could be something to watch out for. Nanotechnology is nascent right now, but I do feel that nanotechnology will have a very big impact on the rubber industry entirely. So that is something we need to watch out for. So rubber as an industry, future is good, but you need to be aware. I think that goes now for almost all the industries.
Sure. Yeah, that is true, pretty much true. And but how would you look at the young people now? Whether are they interested to enter into the rubber industry? What's your feeling? You won't be young for long. Okay, you always need young people to replace older people. So how do you see younger generation the interest into the rubber industry?
First of all, I don't go by that maxim because I see my father is still not ready to go out.
Well, that's not so many like that, as you know.
I don't see myself working so long. So yeah, the younger people today, I would say they are tech savvy people, and they do understand the issues in a much better way from what we could understand, is what I feel. They have a lot access to information as well. So that is one. These are some very good things that the younger people have. Of course, with that, they have the options that we did not have. The software industry, the industry which is paying in six figures for even the startups. So these are all things which would probably not allow them to have a very clean thing on the rubber industry. When you look at it, the rubber industry as such has some issues that it is not a clean industry, at least for the non-tire sector, for the smaller sector. So we as an industry will have to evolve some methods to tackle those things. Ultimately, we will have to find out ways so that people, good talent, does come into it. But yes, as an industry, I would say it has a good potential, and younger people should get into it. And just one piece of advice, like I did get from Mr. Bhatia, is if people want to get into this industry, I would say they should learn a bit more about this industry, since it's a technical field, and then get into it. I had the chance to rectify myself and I could do it, but not everybody will get that chance. So better to equip yourself and then get into this industry.
There is always one saying: once you get in the rubber industry, it's difficult to get out. That's how it is most of the rubber people.
Yeah, rubber industry is full.
Right, you got to stick to it forever until to the end, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, we're almost entering this discussion today on the rubber industry business talk. Before I let you go, I really like your tagline: Saga elastomers, flexible in applications, inflexible in quality. Let's give your what's your opinion on this? What's all about it?
Yeah, so basically flexibility in our approach, flexibility that leads to flexibility in the products. So we as a team are always open to what the customer desires. So if we started like that as to what is the customer's requirement beyond the specs also. So specs is one thing that the customer does give us the data sheet, but we try to get into it as to what is the actual use of the product. Sometimes we improvise beyond the specs also, of course, in consultation with the customers. So this is this flexible approach that we have, which is helping us to develop products which have the flexibility. So that is what is the tagline. And of course, inflexible in quality has to be. It is
Right.
for the entire industry.
Right. Milind, it's nice, very nice to have a discussion with you about your journey. It's very interesting, very inspiring, and I'm glad that to have you on this program today. Thank you very much, and please do continue this journey and inspire others, other people to come into the rubber industry more and more. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to all the panel members as well. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Milind. We talk again. Guys, that's the end of the rubber industry business talk, focusing on the journey of Saga elastomers as a quality manufacturer of extruded rubber products. I'm hoping that you find this discussion with Mr. Milind Ladha is interesting to all of you, as his journey, his experiences, his challenges. Yeah, it's interesting. Let's continue. We wish Mr. Milind Ladha to continue his successful journey, move forward. Okay, before we move to the next session, I'd like to show you the rubber industry buyer guide, which is a source guide for the rubber industry. It's basically a commercial segment of this program, rubber industry buyer guide. Please have a look at it. Okay, that's about rubber industry buyer guide. I do encourage all of you to check these companies who promote themselves, introduce their products and services. If you need their assistance, please reach out to them. Thank you all the suppliers to supporting this rubber industry buyer guide. So now we are into the rubber industry panel discussion. This is the first time we're organizing this as a part of the program, rubber industry panel discussion. In this today's session, we have Dr. Samar Bandyopadhyay, Dr. Hans Joachim Graf, Mr. E. Palaninathan. We'll be discussing about the impurities in rubber compounds, how to handle. This subject, when we, as Technobase organize lots of programs, and all the time I have this question: impurities, how to deal with it, and how to handle it. Dr. Samar has extensive, close to 30 years experience in the rubber and tire compounding, and Dr. Hans more than 45 years experience in the non-tire segment and the compound product development. Mr. E. Palaninathan, he also have 35 years experience in the rubber compounding and the processing. So we have experts here. So I welcome all of them for this unique session on focusing on the rubber compound impurities. What kind of impurities are there in the rubber compounds and how to handle with it? So all of you, welcome to this special panel discussion. I'm going to take your experience on this subject for the benefit of the industry. So I'd like to invite Dr. Samar, to come forward to share your experience about these impurities in rubber compounds, please.
Thank you very much, Peram, for giving me the opportunity to speak in your program. So basically, my experience is with tire, tube, bladders in this field, because I worked in this area for around 24 years. And later part, I have been shifted in raw material. So visiting different industry and coming to know of their problems. So here I want to say the impurities are very severe when the profile is very thin. Okay, like in case of the tube or in case of the bladder, these impurities are very severe because the tube, the purpose of the tube is to retain the air or the gas. Now, if any impurity is present in the product tube, then there will be many chances of air leakage or the gas leakage. So here, what the rubber industry, they take care with the tube compound. First, they mix the master batch and then they go for straining. Straining means they are removing all type of impurities. Maybe any foreign material, maybe some wood piece or maybe some iron piece or anything. So any impurity they try to remove by straining. So very important step this straining is. And nowadays, pharmaceutical stopper and other industries where you need to retain the material intact, they are also going through this process, this training. So straining is a good medium to restrict the impurities. This is one. And other impurities like when we are using in natural products, like first the natural rubber. Because the rubber, as you know, it is collected from the latex. It is made from the latex. And as you know, the latex is a cottage industry in many countries. And sometimes the latex falls from that pot where it is collected to the soil. And even people collect those things from the soil and put them into that pot, so that nothing can be wasted. But this is a real means a culprit of coming the foreign material with the latex. And also sometimes the wood bark of the tree or the leaves, this type of impurities also comes. And if the latex is not finely strained or filtered, these impurities will going to come into the rubber, and these may cause again the separation problem, particularly in the built-up particles like the tire ply or even the conveyor ply or hose ply. Any impurity which is in between the layers, that will cause this separation, particularly the separation problem. So this we have seen in our eyes. And another impurity is the contamination, like the butyl and the general purpose rubber. This contamination is very severe. Sometimes if in the same mixer you mix the your butyl compound and also you mix this natural rubber SBR compound, then there may be chances of contamination or the impurity. The small amount of butyl, if it gets contaminated into the natural rubber SBR or polybutadiene compound, this causes a havoc. And yeah, in our own eyes, we have seen many tires came back from the market because there was some small butyl contamination. So after that incident, when a lot of tires were rejected, the company decided to outsource the tube or the bladder. Total butyl mixing was outsourced from the other companies who are dedicated butyl compound handling facility. So this is again one very good learning, that contamination of the butyl with the general purpose rubber. So these are all as per my practical experience. Sometimes the wood rosin, wood rosin is also a natural product. It is also a culprit. It is having very good tack property, but if the impurities come with the wood rosin, this will also cause a lot of problem in the built-up particles. So this much I can say as impurities.
Thank you, Dr. Samathy. So it's not only small companies, big tire companies have serious issues also, yeah?
Correct.
So may I ask Dr. Graf, you work in Europe, you work in North America, so, and of course you are not in the tire industry, non-tire industry. How is your experience in dealing with these impurities?
For me, it's less than foreign materials in what we have in the compounds. Most of my work was concentrated on one end for residues of catalyst in polymers, and that leads to tendencies in batch variation and to batch variation. And the most important thing when I learned in school, before I started in industry, is, for example, EPDM is a most stable polymer. And then specifically in my Canadian time with Cooper Standard at this time, I worked on the question, how stable is EPDM? And most people when I presented that the first time in Germany, most people were pretty shocked how stability is affected by the quality of the catalyst washing out, or the washout of the catalyst. And even you see that when you have modern catalysts where you have by itself very, very little residue, yes, you see already that the stability is affected, and branching, molecular weight reduction, breakdown, and things like that in EPDM starts at 120, 150 C. So that is not really a high temperature. And if I see now mixing process and the weakness of all the other polymers, what we called mastication when we talked about natural rubber. Yes, we never talked about mastication when we used EPDM. So in this case, we had to learn, yes, how to control this breakdown and rearrangement of the polymer in the mixer and control batch-to-batch variation. And why that was for me a big topic. In my Canadian time, we had around 50 extruders to serve in automotive door profiles and things like that. And an extruder cannot do anything to correct what comes out of the mixer. So you need to make sure that the extruder is running all the time. Yes, and that is what you get from the mixer that you have to put in the extruder, and then you run the show. And with that, you talk about mixing. Yes, but at the end, you talk about stability and impurity of polymers. And that goes also in storage, that you have to control storage. And of course, you have to control the data which you get in. So for me, that is a big topic still. Yes, and when you have other impurities from the carbon black, for example, grit and impurities, then you talk about in extrusion specifically on surface defects. And with that, you have a certain spec, but actually as a producer, you don't want to have any surface defect. Yes, you want to have a shiny, nice, glossy profile. And at this time, when I worked out that, we already saw that the profile becomes more and more an element of design. So then you mean you have to have supply a very nice, even surface. And you know when it's glossy and you look over a glossy surface, you see any defect. If it's matte, yes, and a little bit rough, you don't see any defects in that way. So with that move from the car industry, yes, this becomes a big topic. So that's one example for me, which is a little bit hidden. And because you don't see it by the visual inspection on a polymer that there is some problem involved. And then you can expand on that, and then you start to analyze what is a polymer, what actually you get when you buy a polymer. Yes, and then you find a lot of things in the polymer up to, I think the maximum we found in an NBR, for example, is 12% of material which is not a polymer. Yes, and then you talk about definition of impurities and what is a polymer. Yeah, so it opens up a window which is quite large, and I'm with our ability to test today. Yes, we have a much better view on what we buy. And of course, our responsibility to customer is there. So he wants to have a certain article, and we need to be ensured that we can supply that. So, and then in case of problems, yeah, you need to learn that all. Coming back to what I already said, yes, what is the block of material which you call polymer? What is that actually what you have bought here?
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Graf. Mr. E. Palanathan, how was your experience? You were in one company for 30 plus years, and I want to know how many times you got serious issues with this impurities. How did you handle about it? Yeah, please.
See, I was in the sealing industry for quite some time. So it is when I joined as a trainee, the day one, the oil seals are getting exported to France. More than the manufacturing, they used to spend a lot of time for the inspection. And there will be a visual inspection, and there used to be a contact inspection. See, edge of an oil seal is so critical. Unless the edge is sharp and free from defect, the oil seal will not function. So they used to do a visual inspection, and they run their finger across the ID of this oil seal and check is there any foreign matter or not. So such a serious level of inspection to take place, and there used to be a series of people spending a lot of efforts for finding out any foreign matter or impurities in the compound or the edge of the oil seals. So from that day, I understood the impurities or the quality of the compound plays a very vital role in any sealing industry, especially a non-tire industry. So as to give some clarity to the audience, we can classify these impurities into three categories. One is through appearance and defects as a one classification. Number two, functional, what Mr. Samar was mentioning, the leakages and the tubes, functional requirement or functional requirement, which is the impurities causing the function. The third is a compliance requirement. Today there is a compliance towards the ROHS. So if you have an impurity, obviously if you have more lead, it is not going to be accepted. So we have got a three approaches on which the three aspects on which we can look into this impurity. One is the appearance and the defects in the product. The second is the functional, the leakages, etc., the edges, etc. The third is the compliance requirement. See, we are very well, we have discussed on the various aspects. In the case of carbon, earlier we used to have a lot of grids in the carbon. Okay, even though tire industry, we approve the carbon black by checking the grids, still we used to get a lot of grids because those times this the furnaces used to get rusted. Today all the furnaces are stainless steel. Those times it was the metal. So there used to be some grids coming because we always used water for caking the carbon, so that water will convert to steam and it got corroded, and you also get the iron oxide grids coming along with the carbon black. So nowadays that issue is not there. The carbon black quality over a period of time has improved now. We are able to get specific grades. As Mr. Graf was telling, I had a lot of experience in using filtering, trying to filter the defects by using the RAM extruder. But I always failed to do a correct job, because after running some few kgf for rubber compound, the mesh used to clog, and we have to stop the process, take the mesh out, again put a new mesh. So the best choice is to go for a better materials and stop originating this grids itself. That's the best approach. I always recommend to go for a better. There are nowadays the carbon blacks are available, which are low grid, especially low grid carbon blacks are available. If the industry take the low grid carbon black, obviously you will have a less grid. You will not have the surface defects. So the prevention is better than the something like making the compound and removing the defects. That's my recommendation. And apart from that, in the category of other impurities, there are some other impurities such as the presence of some copper, nickel in nickel ions in some of the raw materials, which aggravates the degradation. For example, stearic acid having some little bit of copper and nickel, it's an enemy to the rubber compound. So we must make sure, even though the quantity is very small, that lead to very fast degradation. If you see the delta here, that heat degradation of any compound where the raw materials are adding some little bit of copper and nickel and iron, I think Mr. Samar also agree with me that heat degradation very faster due to the auto oxidation. So we must make sure all our raw materials should have a very minimum copper and nickel and iron. So that's one point. That's regarding the chemical degradation. Next is Other things is something like oxides, metal oxides. In many of the cases, we use metal oxides for our curing systems, just like magnesium oxide in all halogen polymers. So what happens now is the magnesium oxide as a raw material may be good material. Earlier, we used to get the oil-coated magnesium oxide. It was having some 80% magnesium oxide, 20% of oil to prevent it from oxidation. Nowadays, people started, because bit expensive, people started using the magnesium oxide itself as a powder. So when this exposed atmosphere, the good magnesium oxide also get caked up. It became caked up and it became hard mass. So even good raw material, due to poor storage conditions, it will become an impurity in the compound. So our storage is also very important in storing the raw materials. So next is the compatibility of resins. So sometimes we use some resins which are not compatible. So those resins will turn out as an impurity when you mold the compound. As Graf was telling, we want also a good appearance. If you put non-compatible resins, those resins will not be compatible with the rubber, and it will come to the surface, and it will not be seen while it is molded out. When it cools down, you will see some patches. So it looks very ugly. So this also will act as impurity. Good material used in wrong place will be an impurity. So those chemistry has to be matched very much. So again, one more point in my personal experience. So we were making Royal cock belt. So there was a continuous defects coming in during the processing. The compound also looks good. When we mold the Royal cock belt and cool the product, we see in the cock portion, the bottom portion, there are white specks coming in. So we are very much worried, and we don't know whether to dispatch, whether it will affect the performance, etc. We were running the test rigs to see whether it is having any influence or not. So obviously, when we went for mixing, then we found out when we went for mixing, that recently there was some servicing done on the chilling plant, and we got very improved chilling water. So it's we got a very good chill water. But in the mixer, the temperature of mixing has come down terrifically. So normally for polychlorobenzene mixing, always people prefer lower temperature, because polychlorobenzene mix has got always a tendency to stick to the mill or the chamber. So the lower the temperature is always better. But because of this chilling improvement, the dump temperature is not going high, not more than 100. It's not even reaching 100, 120. Even with the lower temperature, it is dumping, and the mix was good. So they are converting into final batch and going on. But finally, the product only we are getting white patches. So I have gone there and studied. One resin, tachyfire resin also we are adding, even though it is a polychlorobenzene tachyfire resin. The resin melting point is little in the border of the mixing dumping temperature. So we have understood the main root cause for this. The resin is not got melted fully. So the fundamental is any resin, it has to be melted fully for any, especially for non-tires, where the mixing temperature is not very high. And also people using kneaders, there also the mixing temperature is not high. So wherever area your mixing temperature is not high, we should select the resin where the melting point is less than the processing temperature. That was a learning. Once we have increased a little bit of volume of the chamber, increased, and the temperature also we have increased, the entire problem got solved actually. So what is the learning here? Any resin we add, that melting point of the resin will come out as an impurity in the product if you are not maintained, you are not understood the thermal effect, that is the melting of the resin and the mixing, what is the dump temperature. This we have to relate between each other. So like that, when we see the product impurity, so the resin temperature and grid I have talked about, and regarding the butyl, Samar has explained very well. In certain cases, if you do a fiber or flock we are mixing in the chamber, even though we dump, the fiber, when it is encapsulated with the rubber, it will come along with the rubber. Otherwise, it will stay inside the chamber. So many times we have to do some clean out and clean the chamber when we are going for a fiber mixing to fiber or flocks mixing to normal carbon black mixing. That's one impurity which will come from within. The next is some of the peroxides. When we give peroxides, the peroxide will have some sort of decomposition materials, something like high molecular weight alcohols. Okay, those also will come as a come sometimes. Unless we remove this, it will also act like an impurity in the peroxide compound. So people normally use some sort of a PG, polyethylene glycol, as a scavenger to scavenge all this kind of material. I don't know whether Graf will agree on with me. And okay, and in the case of FKM, suppose you are having only 1 mil you are using for sulfur mixing. The same sulfur mill is used for the FKM. Then you are indirectly adding impurity. The sulfur is an impurity for FKM. So you can do a small test. Maybe it's very expensive test. Add about 0.1 pH of sulfur in an FKM compound. Your Q rate will completely come down. So whenever any small scale industries or medium scale industries using 1 mil for both FKM and or sulfur mixing or dye in rubber, they should make sure they clean thoroughly and use a clean dye in rubber so that all the guides are free from sulfur. Then only they should go for FKM. So for FKM, sulfur is an impurity. Okay, so that same chemical good for one compound is became an impurity for other compound. So these are all some very novel examples. Even in the case of CBS, MBT is an accelerator. If a CBS has got some bit of MBTS or it is decomposed, then also the CBS will not act like a delayed action accelerator. I think the Summer, maybe our next round, I think I want Summer to explain this. Okay, how we can estimate this by some methanol insolubles. Suppose Summer is an expert on this area. I want him to, as a next round, we can talk on this. Okay, can you explain, Summer?
Yeah. So methanol insoluble, basically it makes the sense how much CBS is converted to MBT or MBTS. Means MBT or MBTS will remain insoluble in methanol. CBS as a whole, if it is not converted, the solution will be remaining transparent. So there is nothing insoluble. And if MBT or MBTS formation has taken place, then the solvent will be having some residue. And this residue is nothing but the MBT or the MBTS.
Okay, so the one chemical is an impurity and the bulk of another chemical. So this is the beauty of rubber chemicals in the spectrum of rubber chemicals. So in the case of, again, one more thing with respect to compliance, many people, they don't look into what is the lead content in their products. So immediately when the customer asks what is your lead content, they will give simply declaration, yes, we are meeting. I don't know how many people, when they ask for declaration, immediately they will give declaration. Any declaration to fulfill, you have to do a testing. But I recommend all small scale, medium scale industries, don't hurry up in giving any declaration. You have to check. Many people have given declaration. When they go back and then check their compounds, they find always lead is more than 0.1. Why? Because today zinc oxide, all the zinc oxide has got a potential to have more lead, because some of the cheap zinc oxide manufacturers, they source zinc in various other sources, especially from battery. So zinc sourced from battery recovery, it will have a very high lead content. Okay, so when they oxidize this and get a zinc oxide, then it will become an impurity, and it will not meet your requirement of ROHS. So any persons, so the compliance to the ROHS means one has to check the lead content in the zinc oxide and also your compound. So the lead is a very important impurity, which we have to make sure that we are less than the specified norms before we giving any declaration to our customer. So this is something I touched upon, the impurities. I think you can proceed further, some points from Graf or Mr. Samar.
Super. Well, you covered very well in a systematic way. Thank you very much, Mr. EP. Dr. Graf, would you like to add further points?
Yeah, what is, I think is important, what let me say, Palaninathan, sorry about misspelling.
By short name, you can call me EP.
Okay, EP. Is that when we look at the specification of a product, what we buy, yes, that is by far not enough in these days. Yes, we need to know much more. So we have actually to build up analytics in the companies to let me say, actually do what our supplier should have done. That's my position on this. Yes, so I have an extra cost to bury when I'm doing those analytics, and I think the balance between supplier and more the smaller companies are not there anymore in this respect. Yeah, so I have really to look after those things, and in non-tire industry, I believe also in the tire industry in some places, yes, a lot of things you see when you start to use that part in dynamics, yes. All the hidden things come forward if you make a dynamic test. Yeah, and what I like to add to what you have said already, and what is said already, is that we have also process-borne things which we are not like, and we have in the first things do not see, and that is cured particles. We saw them in old times in an extruder, and that is a whole topic of dead spots in our processing machines. Yes, and when we go one step ahead, yes, and we have to make sure that when we dump a batch, everything comes out. Yes, and in the past I saw, let me say, roughly half a kg and up to a kg sticking in the mixer, and so contaminating the next batch. Yes, and now I think we have learned a bit in the industry, and we are a bit advanced now. So 2 years backwards, I had actually a chance to inspect a mixer from the inside. So I really moved in the mixer and looked, and okay, it was clean, yes, but I was arguing whether because of a certain problem it was clean, yes or no, but it was. So it was not the reason for what we had here. And then we discussed a little bit straining. Yes, that is for some parts a must. That is one thing. But the strainer sieve is around 120 microns or something like that. Yes, it's already a fine straining. Yes, and I learned that if you go from surface energy, a particle bigger than the magic number of 52 microns is actually, when you really investigate this part in dynamic, a defect and shortens the lifetime of the part. So, and with the advancement in industry, we are much more sensitive to those type of topics than in the past. Yes, when I see my whole life from start to, let me say, to what I see today, yes, we have in industry seen a tremendous advancement, and what we discuss today is much more than we would not accept that today. To carbon black and carbon black production, yes, we had an old analysis roughly in 2000 from a company Meteor, published in Germany, and that was the overall defects on a profile. Yes, and for my surprise, I think the 50% effect was rust. Yes, and then later I learned that the rust comes from the pipes in the carbon black plants. Yes, so, and we forced a carbon black plant when I worked in Canada actually to change everything to stainless steel, and the problem was gone. So sometimes I'm saying it is very, very simple. We just have to ensure and to see and to look inside, yes, and then the solution is in front of us. Yeah, sometimes we are not govern this solution, so we need to have the supplier then actually to invest and bring the solution. And the other thing is grid in the carbon black. Yes, I got a company which I'm consulting at the moment, and they showed me the injection molding machine screws wearing out. Yes. And then I asked them, and what type of carbon black you use? Yes. And they said me from this and this country. And then I said, would you please tell your buyers, yes, to buy another black? And I recommend this and this. Yeah. So, and even here, yes, you have the specification. So you see that, yes, when you buy, yes. But as a technician, I always say, don't leave the buyer alone. Just guide him to the right quality, and then pay a little bit more is obviously in total a cost saving. Yes, from a management standpoint, we have to see that. Yes, I want to make an earning overall, not that these departments has a nice budget, low and things like that. Yes, but I hope I can express that. Yes, we need to see the whole picture and act accordingly.
Thank you, Dr. Graf. Dr. Samar, would you like to add any further points? Yeah, please.
Basically, one more thing we missed out, that is the dust level in the factory. This is a big contamination, and if the rubber compounds are not covered, means in a good condition, then this dust can play havoc, because the loss of tack, and any loss of tack because of the dust may cause again the separation problems. So, and sometimes, pigeon sits. The pigeon sits at the top, and then it sits on the rubber compound, and that gets extruded or even calendared, and the material comes as a contamination. So after coming to know this, people uses a nest, means a net above the your subfloor, means below the roof there is a net, so that the pigeon cannot come down, and they stay above only, like that. So these are also means very, very minute things, but play havoc roles in the contamination.
So storage room is very important to taking care of. Yeah.
Correct.
Mr. EP, any final comments on this subject? Yeah.
It's a good point. The pigeon is also a troublemaker in the rubber industry. And there are experts who will advise how to avoid a pigeon, which I don't know, but there are some experts available to how to some systems are available now in India to prevent a pigeon from coming in. That's
right.
What about the straining technology available in the market? What is the right technology for the industry? If you look at the small and medium and the big companies, Dr. Graf.
Small companies, as far as I see them, yes, today operating mostly in a very clean environment, and their biggest problem, from my point of view here out of Europe and a little bit a part of North America, is the material itself. What actually is the material I buy, and how that affect my operation. So that's an analytical question, a little bit sophisticated. We have not sandstorms here in Germany sometimes dust in very dry season, but it's very seldom. Yes, I saw that a little bit in India sometimes. Yes, so you have a very dry country, so the dust will be everywhere, and that is for sure a problem to prevent this, because some larger companies buying products, so our OEMs, for example, they have a quality system which deals with ppm or something like that. So yes, so every sand corn in a part is then detected somewhere if it's cause a failure. So you need to keep up with that type of thinking, and that is justified, specifically if it's gone in safety parts. The other thing is that I still see that in scientific community, yes, we have a certain level of knowledge, yeah, but we are here in this seminar, I think we're talking more about operation level, so the operation floor, yes, and here we have to ensure repeatability and very small batch-to-batch variation. That's the main thing, yes, because in a mixing plant, I have a spec and I need to supply to the spec to my subsequent plants. So if that's my main job, yes, then the question is how impurities in material affect this type of operation, holding up, costing time, having quality costs somewhere, things like that. It's all unnecessary cost. That's what you have to face. So now how I bring that down, and here the plant floor can, let me say, learn a little bit from science, yes, but the science needs have much more focus on this type of operation. Yes, and the the gap for me is still quite large. So I hope that in the future we will close that or build bridges or whatever we need to do, yes, with a knowledge transfer from one side to the other side, and of course back. Because in my lifetime, I learned plant floor tells you most, yes, not the books. That was my example, yes, with the EPDM, yes, because I learned, oh, EPDM is so stable. Yeah, wow, yes. And natural rubber is so unstable, goes mastication like NVR and things like that. And then I have to acknowledge that's all not true. So that was quite a change in my mind at this time, yes, which costed me a couple of 10 years actually to finally get a chance to really dig into that with simple things we do in plant, and everybody was had the eyes then open, and that means now you can shift the operation, yeah, because now you know where your variation, for example, comes from, or what to look at, and then you can shift operation, yes, to deal with that and then have the targets met. And it's always multi-targets, yes, so we have always to compromise. That's the job we need to perform better.
Thank you, Dr. Graf. Peter, any final remarks before we end this session?
Yeah, we have in fact touched upon various issues. Like here we have not touched upon the bloom, which is a major topic in the compound. We talked only on the impurities. You know, the people who are hearing, they shouldn't confuse what is bloom versus impurity. We talked about only impurity, which is different from bloom. So this is what my final message. Otherwise, we have
in this case, and I raise my hand, I don't see bloom as a problem under the umbrella impurity. Yes, bloom for me is bad compounding. Yes. So we need to be very clear on this, yes, because you give the job to the team, yes, and you have hopefully a cross-functional team working on that. And in a cross-functional team, I see who is in the best position to solve this problem. In this case, Bloom, the compounder, is in the best position because he has to learn about solubility and compatibility and things like that. Yes, so it's not. I had some projects in the past where we really had a high sophisticated to deal with that type of effect. Yes, and impurity for me is foreign material, or in some like scorchy material, yes, process-borne impurity. Yes, that's also a different story. Yes, and impurity now in a raw material can be hidden. Yeah, for example, an NBR with 10% resin, that is 10 PHR resin up front, even you have done anything. Yes, and even if you are not aware, yes, you put then more resin in, yes, and then you see, oh, why is my NBR failing? Yeah, so because it is 20 PHR resin inside, and the NBR is by sudden, now I should not say that, but it's a minority in your compound, yes. So, and other things, calcium oxide under conditions stored, yes, will give reaction to calcium hydroxide, calcium carbonate. That will then show up, yes, and will affect the material. Or we stress that sulfonamides, yeah, where you have the purity coming from the plant and affecting the storage stability of the sulfonamide, because with that impurity, which is mostly MBTS type, yes, you have an autocatalytic process already. Yes, and then I think India is not very cold country. Yes, I mean temperature plays a role here as well. Yeah, so we are living in different environment. Yes, and so the effect is different in its effect itself. That we have also to knowledge, yeah, acknowledge. Okay, but I think
guys,
that's enough for today.
well, it's a wonderful discussion, and all of you highlighted important issues about the impurities in rubber compounds. Sincere thanks to Dr. Graf, Dr. Summer, and EP for sharing your insights and experience on how to deal with the impurities in rubber compounds. We will touch on different subjects and some other time, different problems in other panel discussion. I once again thank you on behalf of Technobase for joining this session now. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Karan. Thank you.
Guys, that's the end of the panel discussion. We're not finished yet. We'll have the next session is another part of the rubber industry business talk. Now, we are here for the last part of this session today is this rubber industry NewsHour. This one is focusing on the quality issues, the role of quality assurance in rubber industry for business excellence. We have an expert, Mr. R.S. Kannan, is a director of the J.K. Associates, is basically of the consulting and training and quality. He's giving a talk on the subject and the role of quality assurance in rubber industry for business excellence. Let me brief you about Mr. Kannan. He has over 38 years experience in the manufacturing industry, covering the quality assurance, process engineering, and last 10 years he's actively involved in implementation, practicing the total quality management, TQM, for a business improvement. He has extensive experience in setting up quality systems, best business process designs with the first time right approach. I've set up an end-to-end quality process systems on a greenfield project, manufacturing with a focus on the continuous improvement and the lean setup. He's also a promising passionate professional with a global and a cross-cultural mindset, application of lean technology, war on waste, fully committed to working in total quality management practices. He's also one of the, he was a part of the core team on achieving the Deming Prize first time in India in tire industry. Currently working on integrating the TQM principles in the digitalization process. And he has experience with the MRF, Mordestone, Dunlop, C8, Allianz Tires, and ATG. So Mr. Kannan is well experienced on the quality. He will be giving a talk on the role of quality assurance in rubber industry for business excellence. This will be a little longer session. I want you all of you follow this. This is very important topic for all the rubber industries. Quality, quality, quality. I think we talked about in today's session the Mr. Saga elastomer, what is emphasis of quality, and you look at the problems related to the impurities. So let's look at this subject now on the role of quality assurance in rubber industry for business excellence.
Welcome to Rubber Industry Business Talk, organized by Technobase. This is a Technobase event. Today we are going to discuss on the role of quality assurance in rubber industry for business excellence. I'm Kannan, Director of JK Associates, basically into consulting and training on quality. So when we say role of quality assurance and rubber industry, generally people think that quality assurance is something which is very, very critical in manufacturing setup. But we will see my experience in the industry of rubber and tires for nearly 4 decades has shown me a very, very clear indication that quality is there all across, whether it is any particular industry or any particular even service industry. So we are going to see how it is going to be influencing the rubber industry as well. So before we start, this is one thing which I always feel: whatever we do, whatever we learn, it is not only for enhancing our personally, our independent individual knowledge or our own enlightenment, but it should reflect in a pure joy for the service of the society also. So there is a Shubhashita in Sanskrit which says Vidyam dadati vinayam vinayad yati patratam patratva dhanamapnoti dhanat dharmam tata sukham, which says that true knowledge brings humility, and from humility comes worthiness. From worthiness, one gets the wealth. From wealth, one does good deeds, and from that comes a joy. So, whatever we are doing in our regular walk of life, it should aim at creating a joy for us and to the people around us. Since the day's topic is role of quality assurance in rubber industry, so let's do some bit of a small introspection within ourselves, asking this question: what is quality? So if I have to throw this question to 100 different people, 100 different people will come out with a different perception of their own version of what is quality to them. So let us analyze a few of them. So what is quality? Conformance to specifications. So every activity of manufacturing, be it in rubber industry, tire industry, or any industry for that matter, it is set to some specification, and the specifications are issued by the customer. So conformance means completely complying and meeting the specification. Is it the conformance to specification which is quality? Is the first one. Next is latent need. If you see latent need, what is latent need? It's an attractive quality. For example, if you look in the early past, when the motorcycle or even the car used to come, they used to hand over too many keys, like, one for the ignition, one for the door, one for the boot. But today, with one key, every door, every operation is done. So what does it mean? Did the customer go and tell the manufacturer that I need so many keys to be eliminated and converting it to one key? No. But the company people, when they saw that this person is actually, toggling with different keys to open, and then finding it difficult to arrive at the right key, so they felt it need to give them a single key which will be covering all the three aspects or the three activities. So this is attractive quality. This is not a one which customer has asked for. This is a latent need. So seeing the customer going through some trouble or some difficulty, you come out with your own perception of mitigating the problem, and that is called as attractive quality. Next one, we are talking about a strictly ISO, that is International Organization for Standardization, which is the mother of all the standards across the globe. So what does that say? It is the ability of a set of inherent characteristics of a product, system, or process to fulfill requirements of customers and other interested parties. So is this the quality? Next, fitness for use. There was one Mr. Juran, and he was a quality guru who transformed Japan post World War II into a completely devastated economy to a very high level quality accepted and a benchmark quality country in the whole world. So he says that quality is fitness for use, which includes the issues of reliability, availability, and maintainability. So is this the quality? We also say value for money. Now I am a person who is actually feeling hungry and want to eat something, but I don't have money in my pocket more than, say, $10. So how do I do? So I can go to any nearby shop where I can take a pizza, one small burger or something like that, and satisfy my appetite and fulfill my appetite with that small sum of money I have. If I have a big purse, then I can go to any proper good restaurant and satisfy and splurge on having a very sumptuous lunch or dinner. So both are actually fulfilling the appetite. But here, when I say quality, the money that I have, which is fetching me what I need to immediately fulfill and satisfy my desire, is met in both the cases with a difference between what I spend in the first case and the second case. So it is basically value for money. Whatever I spend, whether I'm getting the money's worth out of what I spend in the product or services that I'm offering to the customers. So these are some of the top of the mind thoughts which comes to say, if I have to define a quality, how do I define? So basically, we look at quality is a totality of features and characteristics of a product or service that bear on its ability to satisfy given needs. So now, when I have to sum up everything, what is a quality? Then it is a combination of all. So whatever we described, and there may be much more than this also. So basically, we are talking about meeting a specification, meeting a customer demand, thinking about attractive quality, latent need. We are talking about value for money, and then we are talking about a fitness for use, which is a functional characteristics, which is talking about reliability, availability, and the maintainability. Now, having seen what is quality, why we need quality, what if I don't have quality, and what happens if I don't have a quality? So quality is basically needed because if I want a good repetitive customers coming to my doorstep, I need a good quality. If the quality is not there, people nowadays don't even look at the company or the product or the service that we are offering. So good quality will make for a happy customers. Next, why we need quality? To promote repeat business. More and more new people coming also grows the business, but more important is existing customers should come back to me again and again, so that I have a repeat promotion of my existing business. So that is why I need a quality. Why I need quality? It enhances productivity. How quality can enhance productivity? Basically what we are saying, when the quality is very good, when the quality is of a very high level, then it reduces our rejections. It brings in a better conformity to the variations and the stable and capable processes. When this happens, automatically my rejections go down, my rework goes down, my scrap goes down. And when these rework, rejection and scrap goes down, it increases the output and thereby increases the productivity. So that is how quality is directly related to good quality is related to higher productivity. When a higher productivity happens, then we are in a position to sell that much more to the market, and this increases the sales. So when the sales goes up, automatically the profits also goes up, so it leads to the higher profit. When all these things are happening, my business is on a promotion mode, it is on an enhancement mode, so automatically the development and growth of the business happens. When this is happening, then the people, the employees who are involved in the system are assured of their job for continuity, for perpetuity, and then this increases the job security for them. Then what is it? Overall, the better quality, I mean, work of life itself is becoming comfortable. When the quality is good, your rejections are less, your fatigue and the muri, it comes down. Automatically, it increases your morale, and then that's how you become a happy person internally while doing the job. So is any one of these is the reason for why we should have a quality? Not at all. This, whatever we discussed, is again some of the few thoughts. There are this and many more which constitutes the reason why we need a good quality. Again, one distinct difference between the perception and mindset of the customer. The customers in the early 70s, 80s, 90s, even up to the 2000, when you look at, they were only worried about a product with a good quality, and they were not worried about delivery. They were not worried about the cost, how much it is, because we still remember that when Maruti came into country, when Hero Honda came into country, what happened was we used to book a vehicle and wait for 4 years and 5 years to get a delivery of the product at whatever cost that they were telling, because it was a supplier's market. It was completely controlled by the sellers. So as a customer, we had to wait and endure the time till the availability is made to us. But in today's, with the world opening up, economy opening up, businesses growing, there is no such situation. In today's customer, he says that I need a completely good quality. There is no question of settling for a second grade quality, and that quality, highest quality, has to come at the lowest cost and at the fastest delivery speed. So he wants a complete paradigm shift in not only the quality, it also has to be in the cost as well as on the delivery. So that is today's customer. And if you have to get to this aspect and meet the customer's demand, then we need to enhance and see that our quality is always at the top level. Again, when we say why quality, the customer expectations on quality, cost and delivery is given the first, the arrow, whereas the process output, currently what we have is the second arrow. Thereby there is a big gap. So this gap is happening because of so many reasons. So we need to understand, in reality we are really not meeting the customer expectation to the levels of QCD. So what is the gap and why is the gap and what we need to do for the filling of the gap? So let us understand why this gap is coming. This gap is essentially coming because of variation. So if variation is inevitable in any process, but what we are talking about is not eliminating variation. We are only talking about minimizing and maximum how much you can reduce the variation, so that you make the process completely predictable, you make the process completely capable. So when we are in a position to bring in these two aspects into the process, so then we say that our variations are at the lowest level, rather than from high variation and completely unpredictable variation. You are able to predict and minimize the variation. Thereby you are saying that my product has to meet a certain level of definite standard of quality, which is much ahead of what the customer has expected from us. Now when you say this, we are talking about variation, we are using the word process. And what is a process? Process is nothing but converting an input into an output using a set of interrelated activities, primarily using the resources like 4M, man machine material method, to achieve a desired output. And inherently ensuring that we meet with the effectiveness and efficiency. The other aspect why the gap is coming is because of the waste. When the variations are high, then the conformity to the requirements are low, and with the conformity going low, non-conformity becomes high, and the non-conformity leads to waste. So when you have a waste generation in the process, it is actually leading to a kind of a rework or a repair or a scrap or even a waste as it is, and then it is going to hit on the quality as well as on the productivity. So generally, the waste can be from the all the three: people and quality and material, all the three fronts. So how do we look at waste? There is a acronym called as a TIMWOD, basically, which talks about the 7 types of waste. Transportation is one definite waste which we can control, identify and minimize it. Inventory is again another waste where we don't have to keep storing more work in process material across the width. And then M stands for the movement. So movement or motion, when we are saying people working in a particular area, moving frequently to the left, to the right, up, down to fetch a material to support their process. This is again a waste of time. Again, waiting for the product to come, intermediate work in process material to arrive. So waiting is again a waste. Overproduction, over processing, I mean the time taken more for processing or the numbers produced more, both are considered to be waste. And finally D, the defect, which is again a direct waste which is in the system. So when you have a huge variation in the process coupled with a great waste being generated, then we are sure to see that this is impacting the output flow, and then this gap has to be completely minimized and completely made to as good as a zero level, if at all we wanted to improve the perception from our product, whatever we are giving to the customer on QCD. There are 4 levels of evaluation of quality. As the pre-World War II and all, the quality, when we say, it used to be predominantly inspection. So what is an inspection? Whether, even if you see in a actual rubber industry where the rubber is produced and where the rubber is taken from the trees and converted into sheets and graded, it is only done on an inspection basis. There is a standard reference which is given, and then the grading starts with RSS 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you look at the color, you look at the texture, look at the standard given and compare with the standard and see it is meeting my requirement or not, and then accordingly grade it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is the basic method of quality. When absolutely nothing is there to define what is right and what is wrong, you have a standard sample, and looking at the sample, make a go no go or make a qualitative pass fail kind of a classification, which is called as inspection. Now this is mostly done on the final product. If you talk about a rubber sheet, we take the latex, we process the latex, and then we convert it into a rubber sheet, dry it, and post drying, when the sheet is ready, then you do the sorting and do this classification of go no go, and then grade it from RSS 1 to RSS 5. If you talk about in-house in any manufacturing setup, in any kind of a production activity, you have multiple sub processes leading to formation of a product finally. Now every substation, when the product working process component is getting developed, you don't check or you don't have a control on that. You only go to the final product and see the product with respect to the standard and classify it as a go no go. So this is generally the inspection process, and this inspection process is not a good one because it is completely reactive, and this will only increase the opportunity for non-conformance product to be accumulated at the end, which means it's a value drain for you in the process. Then the second stage came as a quality control. So whatever we were doing at a final stage, we were trying to bring it into the intermediate stages and putting some kind of a control aspect on the process to decide whether we can minimize and improve the rejections at the final end. it did definitely make a big improvement, but not the improvement that we are looking out for, because eventually if I had originally had 50% okay and 50% wrong, now it must have come to 75% okay and 25% wrong, yet 25% is a big rejection. That is why both these kind of levels of quality are called as a reactive, because you don't have any proactive control. You are only looking at either a finished product or in the intermediate product which is developed, and then you are rejecting. Then came the third level with changes of time and the changes of expectation of customer. We needed to go from a reactive mode to a proactive mode, and then we came out with what is called as quality assurance. So when the quality assurance came, then the processes were getting defined, quality system was getting defined, and approach was made on the process approach, which is a PDCA, plan, do, check and act. And every process that we do, it was seen from a customer angle. So everything became customer centric, customer became the focal point. And then last but not the least, it was based on a continual improvement. We will see what is a continual improvement as we go down the journey, but these are the three main characteristics of a quality assurance principle, where you have to ensure that a system is in place and it is there with the process approach. And this being a process where you are laying down the system and you are laying down the processes and how to do, then you are actually making a pre-control to ensure that nothing goes wrong. So when this process evolved, then we call it as a proactive process. Now, is this good enough? Still not good enough, because the expectation of customer is still going higher and higher and higher. So as the expectation goes higher and higher, we are now going to talk about an end-to-end quality, not only which is on the process. If I am talking about a rubber, we are not only talking about the rubber sheet that we are going to give, we have to now start looking at how the trees are maintained, how the latex is collected, how the latex is processed, transported. So like that, everywhere we need to ensure that processes are put in place where the impact of the other resources like man, machine, material, method has very little influence, and you have only the processes which takes care of the entire ecosystem. So that is called as total quality management, which starts from end-to-end process, from people, process and customer. So when I say people, it is hiring to firing of a people. When I say process and manufacturing related activity, if it is a sales, from taking a customer order to ensuring that the follow-up with the customer service is completely in place. When you talk about a material function, talking about identification and selection of a vendor to development of a vendor and continuously handholding him, and in seeing that we become a vendor partner actually. So in every aspect of the processes, sub processes, we need to ensure that end-to-end aspect of a quality is given a high focus. Now generally what happens whenever this kind of a situation happens, like we encounter a rejection, we encounter a process abnormality, then there are two ways of reaction. One is, you can be a proactive person, you can be a reactive person, but generally the mindset of people are made, or even the ecosystem is made in such a way that we are more on a reactive process, but it is consciously made and cultivated that we need to move from a reactive to proactive process in order to win over it over a long period of time and in a sustained way. So when we say this reactive to proactive, what happens? Changes are likely to happen all around us in the environment at all time, and every change comes and brings in a new behavior. So when the changes are happening around, like COVID is a change recently we had. So how you make your mindset and develop the processes around you to handle this COVID is actually what makes you a person to think in a proactive way or in a reactive. You can always lie low, cribbing, crying, but that's not going to help us in any way. So there are three types of setups. One is a common man implementer, one is the blockers or high resistance to change kind of people, and other one of the leaders who set a new path for the next generation to follow us. So when how these people differ, While the common man implementers always thinks, yeah, when there is a change happening around creating impact, he says we'll wait and watch. We will not do any hasty, action anywhere. Let's wait and watch. So it not only consumes time, it also creates an impact on our working process in the form of a business excellence or output or in the profitability. Next is little anxiety is there, then some reactive state. I'm not really going into the finding what exactly went wrong or how I can defeat it or how I can overcome it. That kind of a thought process is not given. I straight away jump into reactive process with the anxiety and because of anxiousness. So this is a resistance to change, because I don't want to make a change around me immediately, because I am fearing for any changes that I'm likely to comprehend or contemplate. Then the last one is a proactive one, who normally look for, they have a positive restlessness around the entire event, and then they look for a proactive state of thinking and coming out with a better method. And these people are the leaders who set up a new path for the future, and people, walk down the track of these leaders. Now, when you say about all these things, can we avoid a change? Changes cannot be avoided. Changes are integral part of life. Changes are everywhere. Now, when we are talking, even for a plantation, even for a rubber industry, there are certain element of weather condition which is very, very critical for, growing of rubber. There are certain levels of rains that is expected. In case of a tire industry, when you say if any of these things backfires and then the production of rubber falls down, then it is going to create a lot of uncertainty in the availability of rubber, and the demand supply, I mean, completely changes the ecosystem. Now, can we avoid this? You cannot avoid a change, because changes are going to be permanent in life in some form or other. So what kind of a changes we are talking about? So it is basically recognition of a new paradigm, or even questioning existing paradigm within us. Are we on the right track, or we need to, what is decided 5 years back, 2 years back, 1 year back may not be applicable for the current day and for tomorrow. So do we need to, introspect and do something different? Then we have to create a vision based on what we did till today will not take us forward for next 5 years, because what we did better as what has brought us till day today. Now, if you want to go ahead, then we have to think differently. So you need to have a completely good visioning process, and that visioning process comes with looking at the environment, looking at the challenges around, looking at our own internal process systems, and how good and how bad we are, so that we need to think and create a new vision process. Then understand the reality where we are today. Then you have to experience the new behavior that is coming around you. Then new learning peak experience coming out, aha, wow, kind of a feel. You have to do a lot of unlearning within ourselves. Whatever we say that, I already know this, so I don't have to think anything different, that attitude may not work. Then more important is any change that is thought of to bring in into the system. The first thing will be the resistance which is coming out of the fear. So we need to cut the fear, we need to overcome the resistance. So dealing with resistance becomes a very important thing. So when you look at the change of various things that's happening, what is coming clearly to the mind is there is one thing which is very important, and change is inherent and part of our life, and that is the only permanent thing in life. So if at all we need to come out of all these things, we should be willing to think through and work on the changes in a positive mind frame. Then only we'll be able to come out successful. So when I say come out successful, managing the change, how do we manage a change? So there is Dr. Mary Lippitt's method, which is universally available and people understand it. So there are, 6 pillars leading into the process of handling the change: objectives and goals, robust methodology, structure and resources, skills, inspiration and motivation, and action plan. Ideally, when all the 6 are in place, then it leads you to breakthrough results. But are we having this at all times? Many times there is no immediate objective or goals or vision set. We are in a problem, we see a change hitting us, so we have to change. So immediately you talk about robust methodology, structure, skills, inspiration, motivation, everything, an action plan, but then there is no objective. So that leads to confusion. You don't know where you're really traveling to. If you don't have a robust methodology, whereas you have everything else, that leads to incremental benefits. Because methodology is not very robust, it can give you some immediate gains, but it may not take you longer. If you have all other things but no structure and resource, then it will lead to frustration, because people will feel they are not supported to encounter and handle the change. If you have everything but no skills, so skills are very important in managing a change. If it is not there, then there is a lot of anxiety. What is going to come out, how I'm going to meet, and how I'm going to do it, like that. Again, you have everything but there is no inspiration and motivation, then it leads to slow progress, because people always need a kind of a pat on the back for every handling every situation, and if that is not there, then it leads to kind of a slow progress. You have all the five but there is no action plan, then you are actually in a false start. You are not even starting, you are only talking but no action happening. So these are the very proven methodology of managing change, and it is very nicely articulated and put in a very concise table by Dr. Mary Lippitt. So this helps us to understand what we need to do, what we need to fix in order to take it to the next level. So every time when you make a change and you are handling a change and managing a change, just think within yourself whether, am I missing anything in the process? Have I answered, have I ticked all the 6 boxes to create a breakthrough result for me? Now, when we say all these things, everything, when you, with the very topic started with quality assurance and the business excellence, how quality assurance impacts the business excellence. So when we say why a business is done to create money, and create money in an ethical way, in a legalized way, in a very structured, without impacting the society, without impacting anybody. At the same time, you are a contributor to the society. So business is done to make a profit. Business is done to make a growth, because what your business startup today is, you want to see this growing manifold times, and you want to create a business for the perpetuity, not only for you, maybe after the person doing is generations of people come and take the businesses up. And when you do the business, it has to create a good image building is as important in doing a business as creating a business itself. And when you say all these things, basically when you say business is meant to make profit, how do you define profit? Profit is defined as the universal thumb rule. There is a price to anything, and then there is a cost of manufacturing. Price minus cost is profit. When you do this, who controls the profit, who controls the price, who controls the cost? Are all these things controlled by one? If yes, then how it is handled? If no, then how it is to be looked at? So when you look at the concerns, any for a manufacturing person, wherever it is, whichever be the product, be it a hardcore rubber which is being manufactured, or it is a synthetic rubber which is manufactured, or it's any rubber product, maybe like any o-rings or any rubber product which is done, or even a tire which is done, there are two set of people. One is a manufacturer, one is a customer. For manufacturer, whatever he makes has to have a quality. Whatever he has made, it has to have a cost attached to that, and then the productivity should go up. If the productivity is good, very high, and if the cost is optimal with him and with a good quality, then he will be able to give a better product and operate the business in a better level. What does a customer look at? He wants a quality, but he wants the lowest price. So if your company as a manufacturer says, I'm going to spend $100 for making a product, but customer will say that I'm not willing to give you more than $50. So he looks at the price which is much different from what a company is looking, manufacturer is looking. And when you say about the productivity, company says that, manufacturer says that I will make so much of a productivity and keep it, but then the customer says I don't care about your productivity, I need a availability. Distribution and service is very important. I need to get an item at a time when I want, at a place when I want, at a cost when I want, at a quality I want. That is today's customers need. So when you look at the both, there is only one thing which is common to both manufacturer as well as for customer. This can be for a manufacturer also, it can be for a service industry also. Like if you talk about a service industry, they also have to ensure that quality is at the top peak level. So the concerns of manufacturer and the customer are generally not the same. Customer usually has no concern for company's productivity or company's incurrence of cost. So quality is the common problem. So how do we work on this, and how do we enhance the quality at a low cost? So understanding the cost structure little more better, because when we talk about quality playing a role in business excellence, we need to have a connect between the two. So when you look at first, there are three cases: cost plus profit is equal to price, which is the status quo. Second is price minus cost is equal to profit, which is a principle number one, subtraction, and price minus profit is equal to cost is the subtraction principle two. So what do I mean? When I'm going to talk about a cost price is not controlled by me. It is controlled by the supplier and the environment. Like today, when the oil prices go up, there is no connection between natural rubber and a crude oil. However, when the crude oil prices go up, the cost of natural rubber also gets impacted. Why? When the crude oil goes up, all the derivatives of crude oil, like any synthetic rubber production, then they don't sell high because of the higher cost. When the synthetic rubber sales hits, and it gets a hit, then automatically they move to production of natural rubber. So the impact is coming onto the natural rubber. So what directly relation is there between natural rubber and crude oil? There is nothing. It is an indirect impact, because natural rubber and synthetic rubber put together constitutes making of a rubber product, be it a tire, be it or any other rubber product that we talk about. So it is very important. Cost price, when you look at, which is not within our control, which is at the control of a third party like a supplier or the environment per se, there we will have no say. Again, when you talk about the subtraction principle number one, here I'm talking about a selling price. Selling price is it is controlled by the customer. I may say I want $100 for a product or for a service, but if the customer says I am not going to give you more than $60, $50, then I cannot oversell it and price it and then make him give it. So then to create that, I have to have a lot of value propositions. So selling price is controlled by the customer and the environment. Again, what is in our hands? How to decide the profit? I need a profit because I'm doing a business. I need a profit. So how do I control the profit? I can control my profit only on the basis of working on my internal cost, which is the cost of manufacturing, and the processes which I'm going to do to ensure that the rejections, rework, scrap, or the bare minimum or as good as zero. When I do this way, then the entire thing, like whatever I'm producing becomes manageable, good quality to go to the market. And when this is made available to the market, then the entire thing gets sold, and then it increases the profitability. So that's how I'll be able to manage. So instead of looking at outside and telling that the supplier should reduce the price, the customer should increase the price and give it to me, let us look inward. When I'm pointing the finger, there is only one finger pointing at you, but there are three pointing back to me. So I'm now going to look inward and start working what is in my control. When I look at that in my control is to work on my internal efficiencies, internal effectiveness, and internal process control. And that is where the quality comes into main focus of understanding how to improve all these things, like what we saw in the first, like reducing the variations and reducing the waste. So that is how the profit to the business, which is very key. We are saying how we are going to promote an increase and ensure that we have a good profit given the situation around in the environment remains the same. How do we make ourselves comfortable? So the target is lowest quality, I mean highest quality and the lowest cost. So when we say lowest cost, I should be able to give the product or service to a customer at a price which he can even not think of. At the same time, I have to give him with the highest quality for which he will be willing to pay a price to me. So that is what is the target for us. So how do we do this? Now we saw all these things that we need to do this. Now how to make the things happen in the way that we are thinking it has to work to enhance the quality so that we have a good business. There are two types of general strategies business. One is A type, which is an American type. One other one is a J type, which is a Japanese type. While American types always thinks of the metrics and the outcome deliverables, whereas the J type thinks of the ones which are going to making of the business, which is the processes. So in 20th century, when you look at all the decision making, like purchasing, closing plan, mergers, acquisitions, whatever we talk about, leading to effectiveness and scaling up of the business, that was a typical American type. While in Japanese type, it was a decision making with a company wide effort, which means 100% total people involvement, employee involvement, and that leading to effectiveness. So basically you have to talk about improvement of the quality, bringing it to world class level, reduction, and completely minimizing the rejections and defects. So when you do this, they found that in the 21st century, the better way to look at is American thing has a purpose in mind of business enhancement, and Japanese type as a methods deployed to create and achieve that. So it should be a combo of both, and we should focus on mixing up both and making a American type with a Japanese type input, so that we get the best of both the synergies. And that's how the businesses got tuned. So while in American type, you looked at acceptance of quality level as one of the main deterrent, or main of the one main key concern for a process. In Japanese type, they were looking at the defect levels as one. Once the defect levels are brought to almost zero type, automatically the quality level goes up. And the defect level will come to zero once you avoid the variations, once you create more stable and capable processes. So when that improves, automatically your quality level also improves. So the basic perception was looking at the metrics. We were looking earlier at a metrics of percentage as a key benchmarking parameter, but today we no longer look at percentage. We start looking at ppm, parts per million, parts per zillion, and all these things, so that when your focus is on a broader canvas, look at a million and work on a certain level of defect levels, automatically it enhances the process quality level. Now these are all basically done covering the total quality management. Total quality management is one tool, which I said like earlier. It is end-to-end tool where we are not talking about a product or service per se. We are talking totally focusing on the processes that we deploy in order to achieve this into a complete end-to-end quality. So which is objective is to become the lowest cost manufacturer and highest quality supplier, then satisfy even delight the customer. When I say customer, it's all stakeholder. Customer is one, shareholder is one, people, the employees are one, society, we are answerable to the society, responsible to the society. How do we keep the society happy, society around us, and overall environment, taking care of the emissions, pollutions, and all those stuff. So what should be the priorities? So how to set the priority? Now we have seen that whenever we talk about an operation, there are a lot of challenges. So let's look at some of them and see and identify whether we are one of that, or are we having these kind of things in our organization also. So what are the symptoms basically we are talking about? The symptoms are, I have a high incidences of abnormalities. What is the abnormality? I have a requirement, I have a reality, that is a specification and actual, both are not meeting each other. So that leaves a big gap, and that is called as an abnormality. So is my incidences of abnormality very high? Second, what is the other one? High rejection. Because of high abnormality, my rejections and rework are very, very high, leading to more of a rework, repair, and sometimes into scrap also, leading to a lot of waste generation. And many a times it leads to rework, means it's a non-value added work also. There is an NVA coming into the process. It leads to higher scrap. Then what else? When rejections, rework, scrap goes high, automatically it reduces the yield. Straight pass gets reduced, the yield gets reduced. So we are not able to meet the desired productivity or the efficiencies. Thereby we are facing a lower efficiencies and even the lower productivity. And when so much of a complaints, defects, abnormalities are seen inside the premises, there will obviously be some spillover going to the customer, and this again comes back as a high customer complaints and rejections. So a dissatisfied customer is the most dangerous thing to have in a business. So we don't want such things. So are we seeing a high customer complaint, thereby leading it to low sales and low profitability? Or maybe your sales are good, but because the customer has understood that you have a lot of rejection, he expects you to come out with lot of discounts and pampering him with all kind of discounts, which is again hitting you directly on the profitability. And last but not the least, all these things leading to a very low employee morale, because the employee loses the confidence in the product and the company performance, and thereby he sets into a negative mindset of thinking rather than a positive mindset of thinking. So these are all some of the symptoms which normally impacts a business. And when such a thing happens, the first thing we should do is a self introspection. Are we seeing one or many or the identified symptoms that we have seen here? So when you see this, the first question that comes to our mind is, are the systems in place? Are we having adequate systems in place which can take care of all these symptoms that we have seen? If we have systems in place, the next question comes, are the processes defined? Do we have a defined process to take care of all these symptoms to prevent them from happening in the future? And last but not the least, we also think about, are we reactive or a proactive person? Whether we are going, like if you look back and see the managing the change process, so are we in a reactive mode or are we in a proactive mode? If you are in a proactive mode, then we will not be getting into the anxiety mode, understand the process, accordingly design the process to mitigate and then get over it and excel. But if you are on a reactive process, then the anxiety itself will make us create more and more of trouble, and then problems will only multiply. So how do we take care of all these things? So some of the methods that we do is first time right approach in end-to-end process. Any process that we design, anything that we do, let us you know consciously adopt a method of first time right. What is the meaning of first time right? First time right is anything that I do, I will do it with the intention of having 100% yield and 0% rejection. Is it possible to have a 0% rejection? Absolutely not. That is why we are even saying, even at a Six Sigma level, when discussions are happening, we say 3.4 DPMO. We don't say 0 DPMO. So when you say 3.4, that means there is some amount of defects which are going to be there. That's why I used the word variation cannot be eliminated, it can only be minimized. So what here we are saying is, any process that is designed, let us design it in such a way that the approach what we give is a first time right. So let us reflect on this on a rubber industry, how it can be there. If you typically go into any rubber industry, typically people who are making hoses, who are making o-rings or rubber mats, rubber pads, they are mostly a kind of a not a very high-end manufacturing setup, mid-level or start level. So they will be having a lot of resource challenges. More the resource challenges, they will be ending up with more kind of a rework or incidences of abnormalities or rejections. So when such things are happening, it is definitely going to impact them on the quality. So when we say first time right approach, so anything that we design, whether it is a formulation design or cost design or operational design or process design or people who are employed, most of the time these kind of industries you see unskilled, non-regular, untrained people will be more, because the floating population will be very, very high. Even in floating, is it bad to have a contractual workman in the system? Absolutely not. Is it a sin to have untrained people? Yes. You have to put anybody on the job only after a proper training, giving them the understanding of what we are talking about. Only then the man-related issues of abnormalities reduces, thereby giving you the opportunity to create a better first time approach. So first time approach in end-to-end process is very, very critical, and we have to create a conscious process to that. Next, whatever process that we created, we have to focus on establishing a stable and capable processes. So what is stable and capable process? Where we talk about a CPK of 1.3, 1.6 kind of a thing, and a CPK is nothing but a process capability index. So we need to ensure that our processes are capable, predictable, and understandable with the lowest variation. Then what is the next thing? We have to focus on a kind of a war on waste and abnormality. The moment we focus our entire efforts and thoughts on abnormalities reduction and waste reduction, then automatically a rework comes down, automatically a repair comes down, automatically a scrap comes down, which means the yield goes up. When the yield goes up, productivity goes up. When the productivity goes up, my availability of product to the market increases, which means the sales increases, delivery is in place. When the sales increases, the profit increases. Because we are working on reduction of abnormality, rework, and scrap, and enhancement of quality is done, automatically my customer complaint reduces. And the customer complaint reduces, customer wants to engage with the company again and again repeatedly. When this kind of a repeat business happens, automatically the company profits also go up, and it leads to a very good high consistent quality in the product, high consistent productivity in the process, high consistent delivery to the customer. When all these three are in place, it automatically leads to a customer delight. So what is a customer delight? Sorry, what is a customer delight? Customer delight is one where the customer gets what he wants, and he also gets what he has not asked for. So you are giving him a latent need of customer, so which is attractive quality also you are giving him, so he is already delighted. When a customer is delighted, that leads to high profitability and satisfaction of all the stakeholders. Because when the money circulation in a business is unhindered and goes in a free flow, then all the stakeholders also start becoming more and more happy. So what is the final outcome of all these things? So whenever you have this kind of a situation, first thing is you see that the quality that we are talking about is completely enhanced one, and a high quality product you are getting. And the second that you see is whatever you are giving, you are able to give it at a reduced cost. So primarily, when we started the discussion, we said that we have to have quality, how it QA influences the business excellence in rubber industry or in the tire industry or any allied industries. This is the way. When we work on building up the system processes using a first time approach, stable capable process, war on waste, coupled with quality management system in place, then people who are involved in the job are trained and deployed with a real skill set. All these cumulatively impacts on reducing your variations, wastages, and thereby increasing the quality, consistency, productivity, and delivery, leading to customer delight. Now we will quickly touch about what is a process of FTR. So FTR is what? Is it a robust abnormality handling process? Yes. What is the other way of looking at it? Promote zero defect workstation. Can I promote a zero defect? Can I make a workstation with a zero defect? Yes, we can. So when I say zero, practically zero may be a misnomer or non-achievable thing. As I said, variations are inevitable, but you can always minimize it to the lowest level where the variations and the measures can be predicted to meet the customer expectation. What is the other thing? Robust processes approach. So I need to create a inherent system with a PDCA and SDCA. What is PDCA? Plan, do, check, and act. Every process has to go through the plan, do, check, and act. I make a good plan of how to do it, and then I do the process. And after doing the process, I evaluate the process and understand if there is any deviation. And if there is a deviation, I go through the root cause and find out what is the root cause, why it has happened. Again, I correct and check the process and do it and correct it. So when I do a PDCA, I ensure that this rotation of PDCA ensures a good process output, and this I have to continue with the next level. After whatever gaps I saw, I will fulfill it with a proper set of standard corrections that is required in the system, and rotate the SDCA, which is the standardizing process, will be first done. Again, do, check, act. So a continuous combination of PDCA and SDCA will ensure that your process quality is taken much higher, many notches higher, and this also influences your higher productivity as well as good effectiveness. We have to also focus on Muda, Mura, and Muri. What is Muda, Mura, Muri? Muda is a waste, Mura is inconsistency, and Muri is a strain and fatigue. So if a person is who is working on the shop floor or anywhere, even in the rubber estate, if he finds that the work toil is going to be very heavy on him, then his output gets reduced because he is mentally not happy doing the job, so with so much of a discomfort. At the same time, any process that we design, if the consistency is not, the variations are so high, then it is going to lead to a lot of rejections. And Muda, again, it talks about all the ways, like we earlier saw in the start of the slides. when variations and waste, 7 types of waste are there. So muda is a waste. So this, if you avoid, you're naturally taking and tracking your process to FTR. High focus on 5 years. 5 years is nothing but simple things doing in a very systematic way. There is a place for everything, and everything in way. Remove all unwanted thing. Then put a tag, assign, and identify every process, so that retrieval time for any product does not take more than 30 seconds. And then you also standardize and then improve. So these are the 5 focuses what you are going to sustain and standardize. Then selection of right machines. Whenever we are talking about FTR, any machine that is required in the process for making a rubber product, for making a tire, we need to ensure that the right machinery is identified and right machinery is purchased, because many a times the quality of machine also directly has an impact on the output, which is a good product or a defective product. So where possible, we have to ensure that the optimized quality of the machine is taken, and process is optimized to ensure that as a combination of a machine and a process, we are able to get a good product first time right. There is a lean approach. We need to understand the flow of the material, so that there is the lean approach always helps in identifying and ensuring that we don't keep too much of inventory. So what we saw as a Tim Wood, so those things can be addressed, and minimizing inventory, movement, everything. So lean approach helps us in doing that. 100% people involvement will ensure that this right skill is developed and deployed. And deployment of TQM as a practice, end-to-end quality is ensured and focused. And it's also VSM, which is value stream mapping, which is part of the lean approach, understanding the balancing of the process and accordingly setting up the process. So use of a digital. Now the industry is moving from 1, 2, 3 to industry 4.0, where everything is more focused on digitalization. So how can we bring in digitalization into our process, which will minimize our efforts and minimize our variations and increase our predictability? Because there is a usage of artificial intelligence, there is a usage of machine learning, there is the internet of things. So all these things are available. So data analytics becomes very, very important. So how do we enhance quality using the right data analytics, using the AI, ML, and IoT, which is part of the industry 4.0. So when we do all these things, what happens is we are actually trying to build quality in process. We are trying to enhance, enrich the process making itself. When you have all these things in place with a BQIP focus and in the process, automatically we see as a combination of all, we are in a direction to set the first time right process in our system. Now when we talk about first time right, it has to be coupled with some quality systems. So quality systems are also, there are 4-5 levels of maturity. We see this. Level 1 is the initial one, where basic QA activities, ad hoc, poorly arranged testing, some there, some not there, kind of a thing. Then the managed situation is like on a level 1 you are at kind of inspection mode. Now you are coming to some quality control mode. There are some activities planned and documented, testing procedures are, but you don't have a quality process or practice in place. Then you go to the level 3 defined, where you have a established quality assurance system. You create SOPs, you create work instruction, you create skill matrices, and you see how the process has to be deployed. You create a training need identification for people. You train all people in various aspects of their the weak points, and ensure that you support them to get into a high skill level, so to meet the entire process. Then it goes to matured and a measured one, where you start having a measurement of everything. You can use your artificial intelligence machine having the HMIs, human machine interface you can have. Then you can collect the data, analyze the data. SCADAs can be used. Then data analytics can be improved. With all these things, you are in a position to use AI ML processes to better qualify and make the processes more robust. When this kind of things are supplemented with each other from stage 1 to 4. Then you reach a final level of QA maturity, where there is a regular QA and optimization and proactive processes set up. PDCA, SDCA work in a closed loop. You move away from a continuous improvement to continual improvement, and you are more customer centric and more proactive to customer engagement. Now there are quality standard. What we say, standard should have a clear eye on customer focus, leadership, my vision, mission, processes, my goals for the entire set of employees in the company, engagement of people, how to energize and engage 100% people in the process. Then define a process approach everywhere. PDCA, SDCA has to be there, irrespective of what function you are talking about. Then improvement. We will be seeing what is an improvement, that I'll tell you. So there are two types of improvement: continuous and continual. And evidence-based decision making, always you should talk with the data-based and fact-based decisions, and not on a perception-based decision. Then relationship management, enhancing the relationship between us and the supplier, us and the customer, us and the stakeholders, like investors, employees. So building up a good relationship. So these all together builds up and improves the level of your quality assurance from a level 1 to level 5. We are going to see, when you say quality first, basically what we are talking, adopt a quality first principle, which means you improve the design excellent, where the cost is initially seen more for the design build-up, but when the conformities goes up, when the compliances is improved, and then it reduces the abnormalities and thereby leading to fewer errors, then it reduces the rework, reconciliation, inspection, and it turns out into high productivity. This higher productivity directly implies that your actual cost loaded on the product, it reduces the cost in the subsequent operations, and it gives you a better efficiency. This enables you to reduce your price to the customer, because whatever factored prices or variations because of the processes that you are going to incur, that has come down. This can be passed on to the customer by reducing the prices. And when you reduce the price and give it to the customer with a good quality, it increases the sales. As the sales increase, then the profitability increases in the longer run. You should always look at a long term and not only look at a short term for any activity. That is a fundamental focus of TQM. Now, next we go to working with facts and data. Data is very important and facts are important. So when I say I'm feeling cold, it is just an opinion. When I'm saying, a temperature of 15 degree is making me feel cold, it is a fact, because I'm supporting it with the data of 15 degree. So like that, every process, instead of talking in a thin air or in an abstract way, we should try to fetch the data for each and every process output. And thereby, once the data is there, analyze the data, work with the data, and work with the facts, so that you are able to take an informed decision, and we can come out with the correct proactive processes for the future. So in Japanese method, this is called as 3G, which is Gemba, Genbutsu, and Genjutsu. And Indian translation is 3Rs, which is the real workplace, real object, and the real fact. Anything, whenever you are seeing a problem, go to Gemba, go to the work spot, main place where it is happening. It will tell you a different picture. Just to give any crime serial, when you are looking at any crime is being investigated, they don't work only with whatever evidences are thrown and shown and by people. They go to the crime spot, cordon off the crime spot, and then they go and look for evidences. So that is what we are trying to do in the process also. Whether it is my rubber yield is less, or my rubber product my yield is less, or my tire product is yield is less. So I need to first go to a point of operation, which is Gemba, look at the observation and get the data, observe the facts, then properly understand the real fact behind it. And from there you go to the root cause analysis, and there are many tools which are there to support and improve the system on this. Similarly, when we are talking about 3R, we are also clear. We should look at the 3 M's. In Japanese language, 3 M's means Muda, Muri, and Mura. These are all integral to every manufacturing or production activities. It is also applicable to service activities. When we talk about Muda, Muri, it is there. Even if you go to the rubber plantation estate, you will see all the 3 happening. If you go to a shop floor on any rubber product manufacturing company like O-ring or rubber sheet, you will see all the 3M. You go to tire industry, you can see all the three. For that matter, you go to any industry which is a manufacturing type, you will see Muda, Muri, Mura very much in place. It is only our awareness to understand and identify to work on, which is very, very important. That's why the focus is given on the 3 R's and the 3 M's. So Muda is 7 waste, which is a team mode, is an acronym. I said Muri is a stress or strain on the process or on the people. Mura is a total inconsistency. So when we take care of the 3R, 3M and basic abnormalities, and you talk about the quality systems in place, then we are saying that we are actually going into the right frame of setting up of a quality system. There is continuous and continual improvement. There is a typical example I can give. Continuous improvement is you keep improving, so that when the person changes or the situation changes, whatever improved may not stay there, it may roll back and come back to the start point. Whereas when you go to the continual improvement, you start with a place and then probably you go one line of improvement and then you go to the next improvement process, and after improving the process, whatever changes you did, you actually stabilize and standardize the whole thing. So this is the start of the process. I'm now going to PDCA cycle, which is an improvement. After doing the PDCA, validating the change, validating the improvement process, I now say this has gone from a level here to a level there. Now I have to standardize that process and sustain it. So when I do a SDCA, standardizing the changes and then looking on the operations, do and check and act, I see that it is able to hold on for a considerable period of time. Now, that what is the time we can decide independently depending upon the companies and operation. So once this standardized and validated, now I go to the next level of improvement again with the second cycle of PDCA. So again I go to the SDCA. So like this, I rotate my PDCA, SDCA, PDCA, SDCA, one after other, and multiple levels of PDCA, SDCA when it is there in a process. Then this activity is called as continual improvement, and this continual improvement will always enhance the product quality or process quality or service quality from one level to some hundreds of notches higher in the uh, as the process continual improvement goes on. So finally, to sum up things, so we are saying that successful company with a huge profit, when you say you have a robust QA system, you have a culture of PDCA, SDCA, RCA, which is a root cause analysis. You have a high clear focus on the 3M's, Muda, Mura, Muri, and 3R's, which is a real object, real place, and the real evidences. And then you have a customer centric and focused approach, because customer is very, very important in any business. And if you don't satisfy the customer, then your repeat business is not going to be there. And we don't want to do anything with 1 or 2 or 3 people, because the 1 or 2, 3 people, if they go out of the system, it should not collapse the system. So the standard has to be that 100% employee involvement has to be there, and create a process so robust, training everyone to meet the challenges. And the attitude or the culture of the organization to be is continuously focus on continual improvement. You improve, stabilize, improve, stabilize, improve, stabilize. So when you have this kind of a system in place with a focus on abnormality, focus on reducing the variation, focus on PDCA, SDCA, focus on RCA, and focus on the 3M, 3R, and mainly customer supported by a good company vision, management vision, mission, and objectives, and with 100% of employment, what happens is we see the business growing manifold times. The excellence of the business goes from one level to manifold times better, and this increases the profitability of the organization. When the profitability of the organization improves and the company is in a very good healthy position, it reflects in got a happy customer kind of a feel. So when the customer is happy, we are all happy, all the stakeholders are happy, and our morale is very high. So finally it ends up saying that the QA, which is integral to every business, how it can enhance the business excellence with all these inputs going together from different sources and from different viewpoints. So that leads us to the happy customers. So with that, we come to the end of the session, and thank you very much.
Okay, that's the excellent presentation by Mr. Kannan. Mr. Kannan, please come forward. Okay. Very good presentation. It's definitely a long presentation. But it's worthwhile for all the audience who is participating, listening to this presentation on the role of quality assurance in the rubber industry. Kannan, before we close this session, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions for the benefit of the audience, for the industry benefit as well. Yeah. First of all, JK, you were with the tire industry for a long time, and currently you are a consultant and offering training programs and consulting services. Can you elaborate about your more onto the JK Associates? What kind of service you're providing and what kind of clients, please? Yeah.
Okay, basically, I have been spending almost 4 decades into the tire industry, spread across various tire companies, like I have given in the start of the presentation. And I have also had the privilege of working across the functions. It is not only quality. I started with production, went into sales, marketing, service, then I went into the quality assurance process, finally culminating in the total quality management deployment. So, and I was also an assessor of CII, which means we had a business excellence process going on in our company, and I used to be one of the assessors for the group. So when I do that, then I was getting a 360-degree perspective, where it all started with the product quality, and from there it went into business quality. So I could see and appreciate the challenges, concerns from each and every individual function as they work on, and it was giving me a very good insight, like how a thing should not be. Then for that, when we went into the TQM, so it gave us a very straight, good focus and approach to handle it in a right way and fix all these loopholes. So that's how the whole thing has happened. And I would say that the last 10-15 years journey in TQM has really opened up my eyes towards quality, not as a product or service quality, quality as an end-to-end anything. Even at home also, when there is a discussion going on, even in keeping the right things in right place, retrieval and all those things, my daughter and wife gets cheesed up with me, but then end of the day they appreciate, saying that no, these are all integral. So it is something like that. It builds into the system. And JK is nothing but it is an what do you call it? A combination of two names of me and my wife. My wife's name is Jayashri and my name is Kannan. So as a combination, we kept it as a JK. And there is a tire company also, JK. So that's why I didn't use JK as an initial. So I put it as JY and KY. So there is nothing more than that.
Okay, great.
As a JK Associates, we are more into consulting and training aspects. In fact, whatever I am today, I am fully 100% indebted to and thankful to see it, because that I have spent major part of my time in that company, and it is that company which made me grow to what I am today, give me the recognition of what I am today. So obviously it is now the giving back time. So I spend and contribute more to that company in the form of a training the people and associates, as well as helping in all the aspects of process teaching, as well as on the process improvements. So that is the basic thing. But I also do other consultations with other companies which are into the service industry as well as into IT. Now I'm more into integrating the digital process. As I said, industry 4.0 is gaining momentum. So you need to see how to integrate the digital process into the manufacturing activity. In the sense, bring in more of analytics, basically how to use the data points. Actually, normally in operations, people don't give much of respect to the data and all. So now when you understand the data and how the data can really influence and change the business scope, then you will be very surprised that you cut down on man hours on so much of analysis doing on Excel based thing, and also immediate quick decisions are coming using AI. The data
Yeah.
based on the past, AI takes the lead and gives you all the input. So it's something very interesting. I'm blending this digital into QA is a good challenge, and it's a interesting learning point and learning curve for me also.
Super. Super. I would like to ask you, Anish, you are the core member of the kind of team member for the achieving the Deming Prize for the first time in India.
Correct.
For the tire factory. Can you give some insight of how was the experience? What kind of journey was at the time?
See, Deming is a dream for
Yeah,
any company, because that is
sure.
the epitome of the quality certification, or so quality assessment or quality recognition.
Yeah.
And Deming does not go with a compliance mode. Like, you have to comply with the 10 requirements, you have complied with 10, so you are now Deming. It is not like ISO. So Deming is something you are living the process. So Deming says how your PDCA, SDCA is deep rooted in the system, how the RCA, root cause analysis, is deep rooted in the system, how your visioning process starts, how your customer is taken care. So when you look at the TQM as a triangle, if you look at it, is the customer, people, and a process. So how these three are integrated and interwoven in a business end to end. That is what is Deming they look out. And you have to substantiate this process not by only writing reams of documents. You have to actually show by physical examples that I have done 500 multiple PDCs. I have done so much of continual improvements. I have done so much of kaizens. Like, in my company where we work, we had gone up to more than 40-50,000 kaizens. So that is a benchmark to say that every individual person on the floor or in the system are always wearing the thinking hat to continuously change. So this Deming exercise was a very new thing to us, and we almost started from scratch. And we had a technical guru for us by name Mr. N. Ramnathan, who has actually held my hand and taught me everything like a school teacher. So he is like a father figure to me, and he is a guru also to me. So when he says something, and that is completely Bible for me. So such a kind of environment, so you tend to actually internalize the learnings everywhere, and then start living that. So when you do that, then automatically small things also that comes to the
Sure.
surface, you attend to that and then fix and correct and carry on. So it is a wonderful experience, Deming. And we also visited a lot of Deming companies which are already they have won the companies. So sometimes we say seeing is believing. So
Yeah.
people believe only when they see.
Yeah.
So when you go and visit those companies and then compare back home, then you see a stark difference between a very well established frontline company and where you are today. So you know that there is a long travel to be done. So automatically you start recalibrating yourself and then start moving towards it. So Deming was a wonderful experience, rich experience, I would say.
We talk of big companies, of course, they have a system to follow. Manpower is there, assurance, quality assurance, quality control. If you're now offering consulting service, I think some of the companies may be the small and medium scale. What challenges you do see kind of experiencing, implementing or make them practice quality assurance in the process? Yeah.
Very good question, Param. Actually, much contrary to the thought. If I have to have a good quality, I need to spend more. If I have a good quality, I need to have more people in the system. These are all myths, actually. In fact, what we are doing, when you empower the person, like I produce, I own my quality. It is not that I produce, you monitor or you manage. When I produce and you manage, managing is your problem, not my problem. So when I say I produce, I manage, then the entire focus shifts to me. So when that kind of a situation is there, I don't need to have a battalion of people to monitor and oversee who is doing right and who is doing wrong. All I need to do is empower the fellow, upskill that fellow, and then continually keep training and upskilling him so that he becomes a first person to own the process. And you are only to ensure and supplement if there is any weak link, how to fix it, and then assure the process to be more and more robust with the multiple PDC SDC. So rather than actually whenever a company embarks on adopting TQM or embracing TQM or even assurance process, you will be surprised to see that you can reduce the man count, because you are transferring the knowledge of one particular set of people into all across the board who are working, and so they own the responsibility, like that it is. So I would say the challenge is more on MSME basically, and that is more because MSME feels adding a quality layer in their system is going to be additional cost, and they are mostly fraught with a lot of cost challenges. So at this point, if they have to add one more, then it is going to be totally at a profitability hit actually, and it is actually wrong. Like in the earlier thing, the panel discussion, when we heard also, there are certain things like when you work on and improve your internal costs, automatically there is directly they are adding to the bottom line. But we assume that in my setup this much of internal cost is bound to happen. So it is more challenging a mindset actually. You have to think the paradigm and then challenge your mindset to come out with this kind of a thing. And I strongly recommend, now ISO is almost become a mandatory thing for any exports. Without ISO you cannot export, but ISO is done on paper. Now how to convert this ISO on paper to ISO in shop or ISO on practice, that is where we need to focus. And one of my main challenge internally what I have taken is to handhold and help these people to realize the value of quality, so that they understand and appreciate how it helps them to reduce the cost and thereby improve the profitability.
But you still
So
see
that is a key thing I'm working on.
you're also working with the big companies as well. I know. Do you still see some challenges with the big companies in quality assurance, or they
It
already?
is.
Yeah.
No, it is. What happens is, along the way, what I understood or what I learned is, the baggage is very bad. When I say baggage, when I know I'm a quality guy, experienced in quality line for 30 years, I think I know everything. And when this thought of I think I know everything comes, actually you don't know anything, because if you know everything, then the problem should not be seen on the shop floor in any company. So we are not willing to unlearn. If you recall in one of my slides, I had said unlearning is very, very important. A problem which is applicable to company A for the same kind of a product of company B, that may not be a problem. That is very indicative of your robustness of the process design. So process design makes and completely differentiates one company to other. Even if I steal the specification and the recipes of one company, the top good company, and straight away deploy it in company B, that product will be disaster.
True.
Because there is
Yes.
something beyond the specification and recipe, and that is called as process design. And people who are working on it, how they do. That is why we are fundamentally attacking in TQM end-to-end process design and upskilling the people, so that once you understand the variation limits, how much it is, then you start working and then immediately identifying to correct it, rather than waiting for somebody else to come and pick it up and then take it for correction. So big companies are more at risk rather than small companies. Small companies are at risk because they are not aware. Big companies are more at risk because they are overconfident actually.
Okay. Super. You're, as I understand, you offer the various training programs. I have listed out your programs. Can you elaborate on the topics that you offer? Maybe more details on the subjects you cover and how many days, or expand your training programs, please.
Yeah, sure. See, basically, when you say quality, involves in understanding abnormality, and abnormality is how much it is not complying to the requirement. So understanding the abnormality, once you understand the abnormality, then you have to fix the abnormality. So for understanding and fixing the abnormality, you need to have the idea or knowledge about the tools of problem solving. So the problem solving and root cause analysis is one particular thing. It is a one-day program. Okay. And similarly, when you understand this, then while creating the process control, you need to anticipate the risk involved, or whatever the failure modes that are likely to happen. So it is predicting the failure or a potential failure, rather to say, and fixing up the controls to eliminate that. So when you do that, then you're talking about FMEA, which is failure mode effective analysis, and how it helps in making a robust process control. So this is again a 2 to 3 days workshop. It depends. It can be abridged to make it without any practical working examples and all, even in a day also. Then you have SPC MSA, which clearly talks about statistical process control and measurement system analysis. Statistical process control talks about the stability and the capability of a process, how to minimize the variation. MSA talks about how to read, when I'm qualifying a product as okay or not okay, how much judgmental error can come in qualifying it. For example, if I have a goal post, which is say the product has to be within this range, locating a product on the border, a bad product can be made as a good product and good product can be made as a bad product in the judgment. When this happens, one is lost to the company, one is lost to the customer. So it is playing such a critical role even in the measurements. So whatever instrument I'm using to check and control whether is a measurement is good enough and measurement is controlled, measurement is predictable. So that is shown by the measurement system analysis. So measurement system analysis and SPC clubbed together ensures how to maintain the process capability as well as the stability.
Yeah.
So this is again a 1 day program basically, and it involves extensive teaching as well as understanding to learn with some examples. 5 years is as I said, it's about a housekeeping basically. When I say housekeeping, it's a very narrow term. It is talking about 1S, 2S, 3S, 4S, like removing all unwanted, identifying there is a place for everything, then continuous improvement, and then how to standardize and then sustaining it. So these are the 5 elements, 5 levels of the housekeeping. So it is very must. If I have to give a very quick small example, suppose in a house, if there is a sudden power cut, who will be the best person to retrieve the candle and light the house? Definitely it is not the male folk, it is only the women folk, either wife or mother, because
True.
she knows where the candle has to be kept, where the matchbox has to be kept.
Yes.
So that is a simple example of IS. If I know where things are to be kept, my retrieval can be at the fastest time and I don't have to waste the time. So how do I do it on the shop floor? That is a challenge. Similarly, ISO 9000. ISO 9000 is a basic quality standard which is now becoming almost universally mandated, and without which you cannot exchange trades between our country to another country. So the basic principles of ISO management, what it is, how to do it, how to manage it, that also we give a training, and it's again a 1 day training we can have and then complete it. And whatever I'm telling, this 1 day training, these are all covered by 2 days or 3 days by external people, but they are all with the practical examples to work on and understand. But when you abridge it to 1 day, then you will get a concepts clear, but may not be having a hard time of putting all the working examples. And process improvement in tire industry, because I am from tire industry for more than almost 4 decades. So every process independent processes leading to convert an raw material into tire. So at every process, all the improvements are done, all the abnormalities handled. For that we take a separate training. And also tire manufacturing individual processes, like what is a mixing, what is extruding, what is calentering, what is bias cutting, tire building, curing. So for that also, how the process is designed and what are the do's and don'ts of the process, what are the machinery setups in the process, like that. They are all a module which is all taken at least 4 hours of one subject. In a day we can cover 2 or around 4 hours per subject, like that. So these are the key major things. And now as I said, I'm also exploring the possibility of bringing the business analytics tool into the integrating it with the quality process. So but that is in the pipeline.
Super. Well, first of all, thank you very much, Kannan, giving this good presentation and also addressing very important issues for the rubber industry. I look forward to seeing you more and more in my rubber industry news hour whenever it is convenient to you. Okay. Thanks once again for joining the session today. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Thanks, Param. Thank you so much. My sincere and acknowledgement and thanks to my parent company CED for whatever I am today, and making me to even be a worthy to the society. Thanks a lot.
Super. Super. Okay. From my side, thanks to see it having you in my program. Thanks a
Thank you so
lot.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay, that's about the the rubber industry business talk, focusing on the role of quality assurance in rubber industry for business excellence. So, guys, today is a long day. The session, um, we is probably the longest rubber industry news hour so far. But we have addressed very important issues relevant to the industry. I'm thankful to all the participants and also all the speakers joining the session today. If you're wanted to review this session again, you can always go to our YouTube channel, Technobase channel, and tomorrow we'll be uploading it. Okay, you can have a look at this whole session on the Rubber Industry News Hour, episode number 8. And if you need any assistance from Technobase, you know how to contact me. This is my address, okay? And I'm sure all of you have my email and WhatsApp, okay? Thanks once again. I see you next time and next episode on the next Monday. Thanks once again for all of you for participating in this Rubber Industry News Hour. Bye-bye for now.